they always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that you are tuned in to the Blitz Hardcore Podcast means that you're awesome! Found the right show if you are looking for an alternative to ESPN and their hot garbage. Thank you for listening to the show. Let's get ready for the podcast!
You can't stop us. The show goes on. You can't stop us. The show goes on.
Forget the media, sports, encyclopedias, blitz. Got what you need when you're fiending for what we feeding you. Non-stop NBA, boxing knowledge up to date. 7 months of shows they won't last when the Blitz Hardcore Podcast is broadcasted across the states. All them haters too late, too long. Leaving alone, you want the truth, then you're right at home. Where the debates never stop and the show goes on. Some say we're bound to make epic history, similar to Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali. The show floats like a butterfly, sings like a killer bee. We bringing that intensity, get ready for what's about to be a tango. Beats to break those shit. We just getting started, them losing the party, them other Satans and guards. They know they need us regardless. And stop acting like you don't know, we go the hardest.
You can't stop us. The show goes on. You can't drop us. The show goes on.
I gotta be realistic. I can't live in a dream world like fans and writers and media does. I gotta live with the basic things I see and I understand.
Man, I love that intro, and I'm happy to be here with a panel of MLB experts breaking down everything from the MLB Trade Deadline, what happened tonight. There was a no-hitter that made it to 8 innings. We'll tell you how that fared. And also we'll talk about the standings and redo our World Series predictions that we made at the beginning of this season. First, though, let me introduce the panel here tonight. We will begin with the RealSportsTalk.wordpress.com senior MLB analyst Richard Janford. And Richard, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here.
This is a guy that said last night to me that this is how much he's written about 20 blogs in the last 2 days, done about 5 videos, and he told me last night that he officially loves baseball more than his 1-year-old son. So that says a lot.
I didn't really mean that, but I don't know.
you meant it. You know you meant it. Justin Gotze, owner of Franchise Sports Talk. Justin, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me on here.
No problem. I love having you on. And then making his return, at least for just tonight, and we're happy to have him back. He did a lot of work with us last year on the Blitz Hardcore Podcast and did a lot of work with me on what at that time was the Cash Kelly and AC Sports Report, now the Real Sports Talk. AC, what's going on?
Hey, man. Happy to be back. Happy to talk some baseball with you guys tonight. It's been an exciting day.
Yeah, no question. It's been an exciting trading deadline in general. This has been one of the best overall MLB trade deadlines that I can remember. We'll start with what I think was the biggest trade. That is Zach Greinke being dealt to the Halos, the Los Angeles Angels. The Brewers in return get Ariel Pena, John Hellwig, and top infield prospect Gene Segura. Richard, tell me a little bit about the prospects in this trade and your thoughts overall on the deal.
Well, the Brewers are getting returned. They're getting 3 of the Brewers' top 10 prospects. They're getting Gene Segura, who, besides Mike Trout's the best prospect in the Angels system. They're getting John Hellwig, who's a tall, very powerful righty. And they're getting Ariel Pena, who was in the Futures game, too. The Brewers got a pretty nice package. They surrendered a lot more when they traded him, when they traded for him, actually, from the Royals. They actually gave him some major league talent. didn't get any major league talent in this, but they got a guy in Gene Segura who is going to be a stud.
Yeah, no question. Justin, I know you're a big Angels guy. What do you think about this deal?
You know, this deal for Zach Greinke is going to work out great in the long run. I'm a big fan of this trade. Irvin Santana, he's not having the greatest year, but you're adding another ace into the rotation, and this is going to work out very, very well for the Angels if they decide to go with Zach Greinke long term.
Yeah, and I think they will. In his first start with the Angels, he actually went, I believe, 7 innings, 2 runs. He did get the loss against Jeremy Hellickson and Richards' Tampa Bay Rays, but it was a nice pickup, AC.
Oh, yeah, it really was. I mean, obviously, you can't go wrong with Zach Greinke. He's got great numbers, and he's definitely one of the aces of the league, and I think he can only help the Angels, especially now during their, hopefully, a deep postseason run for them.
Yeah, and Albert Pujols appears to be heating up. They have Mike Trout, who's an MVP candidate, in addition to being a lock at this point for one of the greatest rookie seasons that the MLB has ever seen. And also Mark Trumbo has pretty much come out of nowhere to be an MVP candidate as well, so he's had a great season. It came down to the Angels and the Rangers. The Angels ended up being willing to give up their top prospects, and that's what got the deal done, while the Rangers were not willing to give up Mike Olt and guys like that, Richard.
Yeah, that's what kind of killed it for them. It's been known that if the Rangers are willing to surrender Mike Olt, that they can pretty much get anybody. They weren't willing to part with him, so the Angels got him. But Jerry DiPoto and the Angels are looking to sign Greinke long term. Yeah, it's a great pickup for him. Too bad the Rangers weren't able to give up their top prospects for him.
There is a part of me that says the Rangers have been successful bringing up prospects over the past few seasons, and maybe it's smart to continue to keep those prospects. In the long term, it might be. But at the same time, the Rangers have gone to the World Series 2 years in a row, and last year they were a pitch away, a Nelson Cruz dive away from winning the World Series in 6 games. And they have a chance to do that again this year. I think that if I was the Rangers, I don't think that Zach Greinke is probably worth Mike Olt. I know that Mike Olt's a prospect and Zach Greinke's a proven pitcher. But, AC, do you think you would give up a top prospect for a chance to potentially land on a parade float and win a World Series?
I'll tell you what, from the Rangers standpoint, I think it makes sense to keep the prospect because of some of the things that you said. And from the Angels' perspective, it makes sense too because they have to deal with the Rangers not only in the same league as them, but in the same division as them. They're still competing, and this deal shows that they think, hey, we can still win this division, and we're gonna make a full push this year and also in the long term if they decide to go with Greinke long term for to be an elite team for years to come and to make a World Series push for years to come. The Rangers are already there. They have, like you said, they were one pitch away twice last year. So, along with what they added today, I think it makes sense to keep their prospects and stay pretty much pat with where they are and go into the postseason with what they have.
The Rangers did make a big move. We'll get to that one in a little bit. One of the big moves that made Zach Greinke really the biggest guy on the market was Cole Hamels signing a 7-year, $144 million extension. Really, last week when I got off the air, 2 things happened. Cole Hamels signed the extension, and then Hanley Ramirez got dealt. So I'm thinking, I just spent an hour and a half talking about what could happen in a week, and then it happened in the next 30 minutes. So Cole Hamels signs a big extension. Look, I've said it. I was not a fan of re-signing Cole Hamels, not because I didn't want to keep Cole Hamels, but because long-term you have so many other needs on this team, and that the needs list grew today. You have so many other needs on this team. You already have 2 pitchers making $20+ million. I didn't think it made a ton of sense, and I don't think that Cole Hamels is worth $144 million. I think he's a top 10 pitcher, but he's not a top 5 pitcher. He now makes more than any pitcher in the history of the MLB in terms of the money per year and the deal other than CC Sabathia. And you think about some of the guys that he got better deals than. The one thing that he has going for him is that he's only 28. Now, he'll be 29 by the time he throws the first pitch in that contract, which is something a lot of people didn't take into consideration. but he is younger than a lot of guys when they hit free agency. Guys tend to hit it more at like age 30 or 31, and that extra year or two, a lot of teams are more willing to give you a 5 or 6 year deal. So he gets the second most money. But to think that he got a bigger deal than Justin Verlander, Jared Weaver, Johan Santana. If you remember how good Johan Santana was with the Minnesota Twins, and he's still a really, really solid pitcher right now, but if you remember how good he was with the Twins, he had won 2 Cy Youngs, led the AL in ERA, I believe, twice. I think that it's tough for me to imagine giving him this much money, Richard.
Excuse me. He, like you said, he's young. Another thing that he has going for him is that he's a lefty. And traditionally, in the history of baseball, lefties earn more money. Like you said, the money it's a lot. 6 years, $144 million, and he does have a 2019 team option for $20 million. And I'm reading here, according to Cott's baseball contracts, that it will be guaranteed no matter what. If for one, he has a 400 innings pitched between 2017 and 2018, including 200 innings in 2018. Or 2, he is not on the disabled list at all with any shoulder or elbow-related injuries by the end of the 2018 season. He has a limited no-trade clause. And, at the signing, it's the second largest contract ever for a pitcher. This deal happened on July 25th. It's a huge deal considering what happened today with the Phillies trading some of their outfielders. I mean, Hamill's got his money, but he doesn't look like he's going to be in a winning franchise for some time.
Yeah, and I'd love to disagree with you as a Phillies fan, and I'm sure AC would, but AC, what did you think about the Cole Hamels extension?
My head's still spinning a little bit from it because it is such a huge contract, but if you look at, I said this today with you guys, if you look at his numbers, he commands that almost that type of money from what everybody has done around the league and what he has done around the league in the past 4 or 5 years. He basically carried that team to the 2008 World Championship, and as much as I don't like giving that kind of money to anybody, especially that type of guaranteed money and everything, it's almost like I can't say anything because he's been that good.
I understand that, and if this was a situation where the Phillies were winning 100 games again like they did last year, which they're sure as hell not, but if they were in that situation, then I would agree with that perspective. Unfortunately, they had a mini fire sale today, traded away 2 of their better players. I can't justify giving $144 million.
You are right. There's more immediate needs on the team. Run production has been a problem all season. The deal did trap them a little bit and almost force them to have that fire sale today. That's really the only reason they did. I mean, I honestly, if Cole Hamels hadn't signed that extension, they would have definitely kept Pence. I don't know about Victorino, but I think they definitely would have kept Hunter Pence, possibly Victorino. So, but then you would have a bigger problem in the fact that maybe you don't get anything for him if you don't re-sign him.
Well, I mean, that's why I was interested in potentially trading him away. I mean, I don't want to sound like interested in trading him away. I like Cole Hamels, a really good pitcher. I have his autograph, everything. I want Cole Hamels to do good, but at the same time, I want the Phillies to do good, and this is it's a tough move. Justin, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree with you guys have put up some pretty big points, but you know what? You come down to this trade, the Phillies over the next couple of years are going to have a hard time acquiring free agents over the next couple of seasons. I mean, just to name some notable guys going into free agency this upcoming year in the outfield, which you guys really need some help in right now because you guys got rid of Shane Victorino, Hunter Pence. I mean, I don't like the cuss here, but this is going to bite you guys in the ass in the future. But there are some potential free agents heading into this year. You got Michael Bourne, Melky Cabrera, Angel Pagan. I mean, Scott Harrison's even a free agent. Maybe the Mets will pick him up, but you know what? Maybe the Phillies can get a run at him. He's having a pretty great year. But you know what? I like Cole Hamels. There's no doubt about it. I like Cole Hamels. He's a great pitcher. But you know what? He just got paid a little bit too much.
I agree. That sums it up pretty much perfectly for me. And I don't know what to think about this. I'm happy they got to keep him, but now Cole Hamels was one of those guys on the team that was going to make big money that had value left because he didn't have a huge contract. You can't say that about Ryan Howard or Roy Halladay or Cliff Lee. Cole Hamels was performing well this year. He made $15 or $16 million this year on a one-year deal. I don't know. My best bet would have been to trade him and get a few high-level prospects for the future. But the Phillies decided to go in a different direction, and that direction was this morning they traded Hunter Pence to the San Francisco Giants. In return, they get catcher/first baseman Tommy Joseph, Nate Shearholtz, an outfielder, basically a fourth outfielder, a fifth on a really good team. And they also get I believe one other minor league pitcher was thrown into that deal. Tommy Joseph is a guy that tore it up at the plate last year in single A, high A ball. There's a difference between low A and high A. And high A ball last year he hit like 275 with 22 home runs and 95 RBIs in just under 130 games. This year, though, in double A, he's had his struggles, hitting about 265 with 8 or 9 home runs. He hasn't been what we looked at last year and what made him a top prospect. He hasn't been that this year, and that's why when you trade someone like Hunter Pence away, who is only 29 still, he's a really good overall player, but he's had a tough year. I'm not sure I agree with this exact trade. I wasn't necessarily against trading Hunter Pence because for as much as the Phillies gave up last year and as good as Hunter Pence did when he came back last year, he hit 320 for the total season. He came back this year, he's hit 270-something, like 16 home runs. In the end, that's not what the Phillies paid for. And Ruben Amaro Jr. did not like, I guess, Hunter Pence. I wouldn't say he didn't like him personally, but on the field I've heard a lot of people say that the Phillies front office were not huge fans of Hunter Pence. He made a lot of errors on fly balls. So for all the good things Hunter Pence does, I think when you get to watch him up close, you realize some of the stupider things that he does. He's the type of guy that is about zero plate discipline a lot of times. That helps him. But at the same time, when you're down 1 run in the 9th inning and you need a base runner, you don't like to see someone pop up the first pitch in the 9th inning. So, Richard, what did you think about this deal?
Well, like you said, I think it was just time for him to go. He's under team control through next year, but he's set to earn $14 million. I don't know if Hunter Pence is worth $14 million, maybe, but they did get a nice young prospect in Tommy Joseph. But before the 2009 MLB draft, an analyst for ESPN, Keith Law, actually said that he was one of the top prep catchers in that year's draft. His Double-A hitting coach, Ken Joyce, from the Richmond Flying Squirrels, said that he's one of the best power hitting prospects in the league. He adds to some catching depth that the Phillies already have with Sebastian Valle, who I actually got to see live here in my home state of New Hampshire against the Fisher Cats, and he's a stud too, but I think they got a pretty good return for Hunter Pence and Tommy Joseph.
I think that they could have got a little more, and the reason I think that is you can never necessarily tell how good a prospect is going to be, but when you see a sign that the guy's somewhat declined going up in the levels, that's kind of a red flag for me, AC.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Pence, he was a very likable player here in Philly, and from a fan's perspective, I really did like him as a baseball player. From an analyst's perspective, he made a lot of bad decisions in the outfield, wasn't the best fielder, did not have good plate discipline, as you said, had some very, very shoddy at-bats in some crucial times last year in the playoffs. So, is he worth $14 million? No. Am I sad to see him go? Yes.
That pretty much is the way I feel about it, because Hunter Pence, he's a really good player, but he has a lot of flaws that when this is why baseball is one of those sports. Baseball, I think, is the biggest one where you can't just look at the numbers. You have to go more in depth, watch a lot of the games to really be able to talk about each different player. That's why the difference between a casual baseball fan, and Richard and I were talking about this earlier, the difference between a casual baseball fan and a hardcore one, when they try and talk, it doesn't usually go well because the casual ones will just go by, I saw this highlight on SportsCenter. You got to watch every single moment of these games to really understand everything about a player. And while it would have been nice to keep a guy like Hunter Pence, and I'm really disappointed to see him go because Things with Hunter Pence were great last year. He looked like he was going to be the long-term right fielder. He got a 1-year, $11 million deal here. He's still under team control for next year, I believe. And things just have not really gone very well this year, not only at the plate but in the field, which was one of his strong suits last year. And he still does have a very strong arm in the outfield, but he really does struggle at balls over his head. Not only, and a lot of guys aren't great at catching balls over their head in right field, but Hunter Pence is one of those guys that not only will miss the ball, but he'll drop the ball, he'll kick the ball. Something weird always kind of seems to happen when the ball is hit over Hunter Pence's head. Justin, the San Francisco Giants needed a big bat, and they got that big bat in Hunter Pence.
Yeah, there's no doubt about this. This team is just loading up on hitters. I mean, right now, you got Melky Cabrera, who a lot of people were like, oh, he's just going to be another outfielder in the MLB. Right now, he's totally lighting it up. He won the MLB All-Star MVP. Angel Pagan's doing good. Then you add Hunter Pence, who is going to be taking over Gregor Blanco. If you guys remember who Gregor Blanco is, if you go back to Matt Cain's perfect game, I think it was against the Houston Astros, he made that fantastic catch I think it was to end the game. Am I right, guys?
No, it wasn't to end the game, but it was in like the 7th or 8th inning.
Yeah. So going back to Hunter Pence here, the Giants, they're just loading up on hitting. They acquired Marco Scudero. I mean, he's all right. He's pretty iffy right now, but you know what? This guy gets on base. He has a nice on-base percentage. That's what the Giants really need. They're really competing against the Los Angeles Dodgers in this division. You're adding Hunter Pence, who is really on his way to hit about 25 home runs. You know what? I think he's totally capable of having a better average at where he is. He has the ability to hit 300. He has hit 300 multiple times in his career, even down with the down in the minors in the early 2000s. But you know what? When you look at this is going to work out well for the Giants. And Tim, you did bring up some great mentions right there. Even myself, I thought that Hunter Pence was going to be a long-time Philadelphia Philly. I mean, yes, he has some. If he's every other day or so, whatever, what goes over there in Philly. I don't watch a lot of the Phillies games, but from what I'm hearing from you is, you know what, he's been correcting some of his mistakes as of late, but you know what, he's going to work on hitting a little bit more, but he's going to be close to hitting 25 home runs this year.
Yeah, you will be, and I think the home run power might decline a little bit going to a place like San Francisco, AT&T Park, but he does have an incredible amount of power. He's been great in AT&T Park in his career. I remember early on in his days with the Phillies, he absolutely ripped one down right by that left field foul pole, so things should go well. Not exactly a great right field for a guy who struggles at balls over his head because that gap in right field is pretty big. Richard, are you worried about Hunter Pence's fielding in San Francisco?
Based on what I've seen this year, yeah, you got to think it's a little bit of a concern. They have right in AT&T Park, they have a little gap there called Triples Alley. So hopefully he can prevent some balls from reaching there. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a concern, but I mean, you got to look at his offensive production, and I think that'll kind of outweigh the negatives as far as his fielding goes.
I agree. Later on, we will be talking about redoing our entire divisional picks and our wild card picks, and also making a World Series prediction, so that'll be later on in the show. Justin did mention the Dodgers, one of the teams that is really in the running for a playoff spot in the NL West and then in the NL wild card. The Dodgers also made a pretty big move today, acquiring Shane Victorino, who did begin his career in the Dodgers system. Phillies acquired him through the Rule 5 draft, but he did begin his career in that system. Throughout his career, he's kind of become a rival of the Dodgers. I remember he almost got hit and made a problem with Hiroki Kuroda during the 2008 NLCS, and he kind of became a rival of the Dodgers the 2 years the Phillies, back-to-back years the Phillies played the Dodgers in the NLCS. He gets traded to the Dodgers today. In return, the Phillies will get Jeremy Lindblom, who's done a nice job out of the bullpen this year, and then Ethan Martin. I think that this is a minor move compared to some of the other moves that they have made, which we'll get to in a second. But the Phillies, I think, got actually the better end of this deal. They get a good return. I thought in the Giants' case, they probably got the better end of their deal. But in the Phillies' case, I think that they get the better end of the deal with the Dodgers, getting Lindblom, a solid 25-year-old reliever, something they really need, and Ethan Martin. AC, you know that for the past 6 years, Shane Victorino has been a fan favorite in this town. He certainly does have his haters, though, because he's a weird kind of a, I don't even know how to describe his personality. He's fun, but at the same time, he annoys you. He does some stupid things, but he's won a few Gold Gloves. Will give you some decent power, some good numbers. He's one of the fastest guys in the MLB, even though he doesn't use it a ton on the base paths. What did you think about them trading Shane Victorino?
I think the word you're looking for is he's a quirky guy. He has things that, some people don't understand about him, but I've always loved him as a fan. I think he's one of the greatest, he's the most fondly remembered outfielder that I will ever remember personally. So, you got to take that away. As far as the deal goes, I think it worked out for both teams simply because the Dodgers got what they wanted. They added another outfielder to go along with Ethier and Kemp. With that outfield is just absolutely stacked now with the addition of Shane Victorino. You got the speed, the added speed that he brings to the table, and everything else that he does. Great defense. But I've only heard good things about the prospects that the Phillies got in return. So, it should work out for both teams. But, it's so sad to see Shane Victorino go. And it's ironic because he did incite a rivalry between the Phillies and the Dodgers in 2008 and 2009 in one of my favorite moments ever when Hiroki Kuroda threw at his head, and then I don't know if it was a couple innings later, I forget, or not, he ended up hitting a home run in that game and staring down Kuroda all the way around the base path. So, it's funny in that sense, but it's sad to see him go, and it should work out for both teams. The Dodgers have made a big splash this trade deadline, huge splash, and you're right, he is one of the minor pieces that they got, but he should work out for them very well.
Yeah, he's been through the thick of a pennant race numerous times the last 5 or 6, well, even the 6th year because Phillies were in the race at least that year. Yeah, it is disappointing to see him go. As much as I wanted the Phillies to trade Shane Victorino because I think that he's the type of guy that can be successful in a place for a while, but at a certain point he kind of runs his course in a place. But at the same time, I was disappointed when I woke up this morning and saw that they had traded Pence and Victorino. It just it hit me that this run that the Phillies have been on for the last 4 or 5 years, it's pretty much over. Justin, what did you think about the Dodgers acquiring Shane Victorino?
Like you said, I woke up as well just hearing this trade. I'm like, you know what, this was another outfielder. I thought maybe Hunter Pence and also Shane Victorino were going to be Phillies for life. Well, not Phillies for life for Hunter Pence because he played for the Astros, but Shane Victorino seemed like the guy who they're really going to keep. But him going over to the Dodgers, AC really covered that very well. But he's come over to the Dodgers, who already have a great team. They acquired Hanley Ramirez earlier this couple weeks ago, or a week ago, I should say. He's going to be moving over to left field. What I'm hearing right now, the Dodgers are still in favor of starting Bobby Abreu for some reason. Shane Victorino has the speed. He plays great defense. I just don't understand that.
That will change. That will change.
Yeah. Bobby Abreu is pretty much done at this point. Shane Victorino will start. Bobby Abreu might get some looks, but I think Shane Victorino will probably go there and play pretty well. So I think in the end, when it comes playoff time, Shane Victorino will be the one playing, and Bobby Abreu will be the one as a pinch hitter. And if they make it to the World Series, potentially a DH. He has to compete with James Loney for that spot. Richard, what do you think about this, man?
I thought it was time for them to trade Victorino. They did get a pretty nice return, like you mentioned, in Josh Lindblom, who has been phenomenal this year as a reliever. They got Ethan Martin, who most scouts compare to Tim Lincecum. So anytime you compare to Tim Lincecum, that's pretty dang good.
Hopefully not Tim Lincecum from this year, though.
No, hopefully not. That would not be good. But he is a free agent at the end of the year, and I wonder if he'll re-sign with the Dodgers, given their rivalry, their history there. I thought it was kind of funny to see him get traded to the Dodgers, but hopefully Dodger fans can overlook that and realize what kind of player they got in Victorino and that he is better than Bobby Abreu.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be too many people arguing with that in a few weeks. The Dodgers made a much bigger move last week, in my opinion, acquiring Hanley Ramirez and Randy Shote. Obviously, Hanley Ramirez is a big piece from the Miami Marlins. I cannot stop saying Florida Marlins. The Miami Marlins. Hanley Ramirez had been playing third base. He's moved back to shortstop, and since he's been there already, he's hit a game-winning home run. They're calling it Hanleywood already. I think that this was a perfect move for Hanley Ramirez. He needed to go to a big market. I think that he had almost gotten bored in Miami. He'd gotten pissed that they moved him to third base, even though signing Jose Reyes gave them a better chance to win. I think adding Hanley Ramirez in is a great piece to the Dodgers, a team that a year ago was bankrupt, and now since Magic Johnson's group has bought him, it really isn't Magic Johnson's group, but he is like the face of it. Since they've bought him, this group has just gone kind of on a spending spree, AC.
Oh yeah, they really have been. They went ham, to put it plainly, in this trade deadline. But Hanley Ramirez, yeah, I agree with you in the sense that he most likely did need to go to a big market. He's a great baseball player. There's no knock in his talent, but he is one of the biggest egos in the MLB. And I feel like maybe, yeah, he didn't want to play anymore for the Miami Marlins. And you know, that is what it is. It's not really, you know, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that he wasn't happy there, and I guess he's happy now because he's producing very well for the Dodgers. That trade looks like it worked out really well for them, and it probably will for the rest of the season, if not longer.
Richard, I'm not much of a prospects expert, but Nathan Eovaldi and Scott McCall, go back, Scott McGuff, however you say it, he has been, I believe, up in the majors a bit. Tell me a little bit about these two, because I think this trade clearly swings in the favor of the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost it's not like, I wouldn't say insulting, but it's almost like you look at Hanley Ramirez from a couple of years ago. This guy was like, you know, a perennial MVP candidate. And they get him for almost nothing. I'm not knocking Nathan Eovaldi. I think he's a pretty good pitcher. In his major league career, he's 3-8 with a 3.83 ERA. You know, he did make one start for them already this year, for Miami anyway. He went 5 1/3, giving up 1 run. You know, hopefully he helps them out in that sense. And like you said, Hanley Ramirez, I think he just needed a change of scenery. I don't think that it was really clicking that well in Miami anymore. For some reason, I think Ozzie Guillen and him, they just don't mesh together. I personally am not a fan of Ozzie Guillen. I think he drives most players insane. And they get Scott McGough, he's 6 feet tall. He's not a very big guy for a pitcher. Drafted back in 2008 in the 46th round. Imagine that, the 46th round. And he's been pretty decent in his minor league career. One thing to look at is his walks per 9, though. He's a career 3.8 walks per 9. That's pretty high. Hopefully, you know, he can fix that along the way. He's only an A-ball right now, so there's still a lot of time before he reaches the major league level. But like I said, they pretty much got Hanley for next to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Hanley Ramirez will produce there. The problem is he really did not have a ton of value because everyone, I don't think that he ever said he wanted out of Miami, but the writing was kind of on the wall that Hanley Ramirez was not happy in Miami. He wasn't producing the way that they felt. The problem, I think, that what the Marlins did here is they valued Hanley Ramirez as third baseman Hanley Ramirez, who isn't playing well, instead of valuing him as shortstop Hanley Ramirez, who has the potential to be one of the best players in the MLB in a shortstop or in a league where there's not too many real good shortstops. Hanley Ramirez is that when he's playing over at shortstop. So I think that they misvalued him. Justin, we talked about this trade pretty much immediately after it happened at about 3:30 a.m. on the East Coast time last Tuesday. What are your thoughts on the trade a week later?
No, you mentioned your blockbuster trade, and I say this is going to be my blockbuster trade. The Los Angeles Dodgers are getting a great player for now and looking into the future. I have confidence that the Los Angeles Dodgers and Hanley Ramirez are going to agree on an extensional contract that will keep him there for a little while longer. Looking at this year, Hanley Ramirez, yes, he's been going through like like during the season type of like problems, like you guys said, he was not too happy being at third base, and so they traded him. The Miami Marlins during the 2012 MLB Trade Deadline has really put themselves against the wall here. This was a team going into the MLB season with with great accusations. I mean, they got Heath Bell, Jose Reyes. I mean, just to name some guys there. Then he also acquired Carlos Lee, who the team's actually trading right now. But this team has traded a couple of good players that will really affect them right now and throughout the future. This team was a couple of games to first place, I think, about a month ago, and now they're near the bottom to the division right now. So the Marlins are really putting themselves in the wall, and they really have got to acquire some more talent heading into this offseason. They have to hold on to these guys. Richards brought up a good point that Ozzie Guillen has just been, I wouldn't say he's a bad coach or anything. He's a good coach, but you know, he just like the players just get really disappointed, and like he just aggravates a lot of the players. But going back over to Hanley Ramirez, I think this is going to work out great for the Dodgers. I'm still not too hot on the whole Hanley Wood thing going on. I mean, Manny Ramirez had Manny Wood, but you don't know. We'll just have to see and find out on how well he produces over there in LA. But you know what? I have confidence in Hanley that he's going to perform well.
Hey, and everyone who had those 99 Ramirez jerseys for Manny Ramirez, you can go wear them out and just say it's a Hanley Ramirez jersey, and most baseball fans will not even notice the difference. It's incredible what the Dodgers have done. They were bought, I believe, in May by that group, and to think that I thought that they'd have a big off-season next off-season, but to think that they've made this drastic of a change to a roster at the beginning of the year looked like an 83-win team, to think that they made that big of a change in season, it's really hard to imagine. This is by far the biggest in-season improvement of bringing in talent that I've ever seen in my years of watching baseball. It's really incredible what they've done, incredible that they've been able to make some of these really good trades. I don't think the Shane Victorino trade was necessarily great, but this trade, they pretty much got Hanley Ramirez for a relief pitcher and one other guy I'm not really familiar with, but it's an impressive trade. The Dodgers have set themselves up really well to make a run. They also added Brandon League. Richard, I know we reacted to this last night. Brandon League will likely be the setup man. Do you think there's any chance he would become the closer?
It's a possibility, but I think it's Kenley Jansen's job to lose. League, he's struggled this season after coming off a 37-save season last year. He lost his closer role to now incumbent closer over there in Seattle, Todd Williamson. I think it's Kenley Jansen's job to lose. I definitely think that if he is to pitch 3-4 games in a row, that I think that League will probably see a save opportunity. But yeah, I think that he could potentially become the closer, but I think it's, like I said, Kenley Jansen's job to lose.
Yeah, I think it is Kenley Jansen's job to lose. AC, Brandon League brings another big acquisition to this bullpen that looks pretty strong now.
Oh, yeah, it does look pretty strong now, and it should be strong. You need a strong bullpen, especially late in the season, because, you know, you're going to have those close games that you need to win, and you got to shut guys down, especially, you know, with more competitive teams and better teams, and he's only going to help that already strong bullpen in L.A.
I agree completely, and I think that the Dodgers are in a tough division right now, a division that started out slow, but all of a sudden the Giants have gotten going. The Dodgers are right there, tied with them for the division, one ahead in the loss column, one ahead in the win column, though, at the same time. And then don't sleep on the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are 52 and 51. We'll get to our divisional picks a little bit later, but that's pretty much what the Dodgers did at this trade deadline as one of the big teams that went out and made some big trades. Another big trade that went down today was Ryan Dempster. A lot went back and forth throughout the last few weeks. Ryan Dempster was traded to the Atlanta Braves last week, but he had a no-trade clause and decided he did not want to go there. Rumors before had been that he wanted to go to L.A., or that L.A. was interested in trading for him, but they wouldn't give up their top catching prospect, which makes sense because as good as Dempster's been this year, he's a 35-year-old guy who is not what I'd call the guy you give the ball to in Game 7. But it's a nice pickup for them as they in the end, do get him at the trading deadline. For a while there, Richard, it looked like the Yankees were going to get him. But in the end, the Rangers do give up a few prospects, not the top prospects, which is something they wanted to avoid doing, and they're able to get Ryan Dempster.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan Dempster, he's been solid over his career, but it seemed like this year he really put it all together. He did struggle with some injury problems a little bit this year. He's 5-5 this year with a 2.25 ERA. He's never really been much of a strikeout pitcher. A career 7.7 K per nine, and he's also a 4.1 walks per nine guy. I mean, I like Dempster, but if you look more into his sabermetric stats, and one thing that really stands out is his Sierra, which is basically an ERA estimator, and it has him estimated at 3.84 ERA. So that's alarming. I give a lot of respect to the Dodgers. They stuck to their guns, and they would not trade their top prospects for a guy who I think is not as good as he is on paper, but he will definitely help out the Texas Rangers.
Do you think in Game 1 of the playoffs, and a lot of it depends just who pitches at the end of the season, Game 1 of the playoffs for the Rangers, who do you see on the mound?
That's tough. I guess it really depends on how Dempster pitches from here on out, but right now, I'd say Yu Darvish.
Yeah, I agree. And they gave Yu Darvish a lot of money. We'll see what happens. He hasn't had a terrible first year, but he has not been worth that money so far. AC, what do you think about them picking up Ryan Dempster?
I mean, for a team like the Rangers, it makes sense because you look at the Rangers and you think, okay, well, they definitely needed, another strong arm, another strong starting arm going into the postseason, and he's been that guy this season. Not the most consistent guy throughout his entire career. Like Richard pointed out, there is some flaws in him, but for the Rangers, it definitely made sense, and I don't think that deal can really hurt them that much, at least not this year. He is aging, and I don't think he'll be there for much longer. I don't really know the whole situation with his contract, what they inherited, what they didn't inherit. But, it's kind of a deal where you say, this could work out for the better, but I definitely don't see him on the mound in Game 1 of a postseason. If I'm the manager, there's no way I'm giving him the ball in Game 1. He can pitch as good as he possibly can for the rest of the season. I'm still giving the ball to Yu Darvish in Game 1.
All right, we'll see what happens with that. I think Ryan Dempster, a lot's just going to depend on how he performs. Remember, Yu Darvish, this is his first year in America coming over from Japan. I'm not sure if their season's as long, so a lot's going to depend how his arm holds up pitching in his first season in America as well. Justin, I know that we were talking about this a lot, and it appeared that he had got traded to the Yankees. Richard had told us a lot of stuff that he had gotten traded to the Yankees, and it was just kind of waiting approval. That deal fell through, and in the end, he ends up in Texas.
Yeah, you guys summed it up pretty much again. When you look at this, the Texas Rangers pitching rotation, you got Matt Harrison at number 1, Yu Darvish at number 2, and I'm going to agree with you guys right there. You have to turn the ball over to Yu Darvish in Game 1. At number 3, you got Derek Holland at number 3, and at number 4, you got Ryan Dempster right there, and then you got Scott Feldman. There are still rumors going on right now about, is Ryan Dempster going to be in the bullpen? Is he not going to be in the bullpen? I doubt it, but there are a lot of speculations that they're probably going to end up moving Ogando back into the pitching rotation. What is your guys' take on that?
They moved Roy Oswalt to the bullpen today, so that pretty much solves all that. Roy Oswalt's been absolutely horrendous since his comeback there. So Ryan Dempster 100% will be in the rotation. There's not really any questions with that. The White Sox did make 2 big pickups with pitchers. They acquired Brett Myers from the Houston Astros, who are the ultimate seller at this trading deadline, either them or the Cubs. I think those 2 teams right now are in a battle to see who can get the number 1 draft pick. This is like NBA style right now. Brett Myers, who has been in the bullpen, normally is a starter, but he's been in the bullpen as a closer this year. He's doing a good job for them as a setup man. And then Francisco Liriano, who's struggled since his rookie year, really, or that first year, since he came back from Tommy John surgery, has not been what we thought he was going to be. So the White Sox acquired Francisco Liriano, really for nothing. They take a flyer on the guy. I think that that's a nice pickup for them. They already have Chris Sale and Jake Peavy at the top of that rotation. And then I like the Brett Myers pickup as well because it just adds depth to their bullpen, AC.
I'm sorry, I was looking at something else. What are we talking about?
The Brett Myers and Francisco Liriano of the White Sox.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the White Sox are definitely in a position to definitely take control of the division after adding those two guys. They're two solid arms. Liriano hasn't been, that good, but Myers is definitely a decent pickup, and they both should be good moving forward for them, for the White Sox.
Yeah, no question. Richard, what did you think? Well, I like both deals. Francisco Liriano went on a string there of 7 games with an ERA less than 3. He definitely has the stuff, but it just seems as though when he is off, he's really off. And he's a free agent after this year. He's not owed a ton of money the rest of the way. And another thing with Brett Myers, keep in mind, guys, I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday, but John Danks is out for the season, so Brett Myers could transition to the rotation, where I think he'd probably be pretty good in the rotation, better than being the setup guy for Addison Reed. The White Sox, Kenny Williams, they get some good trades.
I think it's tough for you this late in the season to get your arm in good enough shape to be able to transition into the rotation. And in the long run, he's probably, once you get to the playoffs, chances are if Brett Myers even was the starter for the rest of the year, he wouldn't be the type of guy that you'd be giving the ball to, at least not early on in the series. So I think that he is more useful, at least for the rest of the season, as a bullpen pitcher. My expectation long term is that Brett Myers will move back into the rotation. Justin, what did you think about these deals? Because certainly there's some speculation about Brett Myers potentially becoming a starter again, and then also Francisco Liriano. Do you think things work out with him there?
I'm a big fan of Brett Myers. I've just been a big fan of him since the day he was in Philadelphia. This guy, you can put him anywhere. You can put him in the pitching rotation. You can put him late. He can be a late inning reliever. He can even be a middle inning reliever. You can put him anywhere. He does have some issues. He does have, I wouldn't say poor pitching command, but it needs to be worked on a little bit. So I think he's going to correct it over there in Chicago. I just want to see how well he can do for the rest of the season. Last night he got his first loss with the team. Now when you go over to Francisco Liriano, tonight he made his debut for the Chicago White Sox. He went 6 innings, giving up 4 hits, 4 hits of those being 2 earned runs, and struck out 8. I mean, it was a great, solid outing for Francisco Liriano, and I'll be really surprised if the Chicago White Sox were to re-sign him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Francisco Liriano. They did not give up a ton for him, so it's not a huge loss here. Paul Maholm, this trade went down last night. The Cubs sent Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson to the Atlanta Braves. Reed Johnson gives them some outfield depth in left field, which is mostly where he's going to be playing, because in center field you have Michael Bourne, who's one of the best outfielders in the game right now, and in right field you have Jason Hayward. So, AC, what do you think about them adding in Paul Maholm, who's a pretty solid pitcher, and then Reed Johnson, who's a pretty good outfielder for this team? The rotation looks really good right now that they've added Ben Sheets. But do you think that this makes the Braves the favorite in the NL East?
That's a tough question, because I don't think that it makes them the favorite in the NL East. I think the Nationals still have a pretty decent hold on that division, but it definitely makes them, in my opinion, the favorite to win the wild card, definitely. I do see them creeping back in on the Nationals as the season draws to a close. But, these guys are guys that can only help you. Paul Maholm has been a decent pitcher this year, and Reed Johnson's hitting 300 as of right now, so he's only going to help, you know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of downside in these kind of deals for these guys, and the Braves, they're quietly being dangerous. They're quietly becoming dangerous, and like you said, the rotation's coming back now, and it's looking good for the Braves right now, but I'd still take the Nationals as my number one in the NL East right now.
No, I agree with you. I'm not sure I agree with you on the Nationals part, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I agree with the part about that there isn't really a ton that you can lose by making these type of deals. Justin, what did you think about them adding Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson into the mix on a team that, like AC said, is quietly having one of the better seasons in the game?
This team is doing a fantastic job. I mean, you're getting great production at Dan Uggla. I mean, Chipper Jones in his final season. Me and you, we both agreed in the beginning of the season that this is going to be all World Series picks. We'll, like you said, we'll be doing that a little bit later on the show, re-picking and everything. But when you look at this trade, Paul Maholm is having a solid year right now. I mean, this guy who has had troubles with the Pittsburgh Pirates coming over to the Chicago Cubs, we were like, well, most of us baseball fans were like, you know what, Paul Maholm, he's just going to have a not that great of a season going to Chicago Cubs. He's staying in that division. But this season, he's really changing a lot of our opinions about him. He's 9-6 with a 3.74 ERA, and he struck out 81 batters. I mean, he's going to be coming into the Braves as a number 4 starter. They're going to put him in. They also signed Ben Sheets, who is having a fantastic season returning. I'm pretty sure he came off Tommy John surgery. Is that right in the area right there, guys?
Yeah, he's had a bunch of injuries, and they lost Chris Medlin the other day, and they've just had a rash of injuries. But you add him into Tim Hudson, who is still one of the better underrated pitchers in the game, despite the fact that he's been in the MLB for so long. Richard, what did you think about these moves?
You know, the Braves, they did get some quality players in Maholm and Johnson. You know, Reed Johnson's 36, and he's still batting 300. Anytime a guy that late in his career can bat 300, it's always a plus. Maholm, he's really cheap. He's a really cheap player, and I think that he will help out the Braves exponentially. And this year, you know, he's in his career at Turner Field. Let me pull the numbers up here. One moment, please. Where is it here? Turner Field. In Turner Field, he's 1-1 with a 1.69 ERA for 32 innings. That's solid as hell. I mean, you can't get any more solid than that. They gave up a young prospect in Roy Vizcaino, who before this season was rated as the number 40th prospect in all of baseball, but he did have Tommy John surgery. So the Cubs did get a nice return in Vizcaino. But I think the Braves, who have a guy like Jason Hayward who's on pace for a 30-30 season, like Justin touched on, Dan Uggla's productive, Freddie Freeman's being productive. They just seem to be getting contributions from everybody, and hopefully that will continue. And to touch on your thing about the Nationals, I think the Nationals are going to win this division. If the rumors are true and they are going to shut down Strasburg, though, then you have to think that they won't survive long in the playoffs. But I think that the Braves will definitely be a wild card team.
I think the Braves are the most dangerous team in this division to make a run in the playoffs. Let's put it that way. We'll get to our picks in just a bit. Justin, I know you wanted to add something, and go ahead.
Oh, yeah, going back to the Reed Johnson trade, I mean, you're getting a guy who's going to be serving as Jason Hayward's prime backup. When you look at Reed Johnson, a lot of people are saying he's old, he's washed up and everything, but no, he is not. This guy is dangerous on the base path. He has great speed, and that's going to be something that the Atlanta Braves need right now and also throughout the playoffs. They're going to need more runs, and they're going to need some speed on that base path. So you know what? It's going to be a big win right here for the Atlanta Braves.
He's hitting .302 this year, having a solid season. I like the move that of acquiring both of them. Really, a corresponding move. The Cubs also traded catcher Giovanni Soto, who had some really good years, won a Rookie of the Year there. But this year he's hitting .199. They traded him to the Texas Rangers, who he will back up Mike Napoli, give them some defensive support there. Mike Napoli has not had nearly as good a season as he did last year, even though he started in the All-Star game. Yorvi Torrealba has been designated for assignment by the Texas Rangers. AC, what did you think about Giovanni Soto going to the Texas Rangers?
I mean, it's obviously a defensive move, and it's to shore up, like you said, behind Mike Napoli going forward in the season, because there's no way the guy's not even hitting 200. And while he was good in his earlier days, like you said, he won a Rookie of the Year in Chicago. He's been a long-time Cub, and he had some good years early in his career. He faded very much so in the past few. So this is definitely a defensive move. I don't think it'll make a whole lot of difference, but it'll take some of the pressure off of Mike Napoli in August and September. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think it will take a bunch of pressure off of Mike Napoli. And it's nice to do that for a catcher in September. The problem, though, is that the Rangers are going to be in a position where most nights you're still going to want to have Napoli playing because you're in a division where not only the Angels are right on your heels, but the Oakland Athletics are right there. One bad week and you could go from being a division winner to a wild card, which didn't used to mean a ton, but now with the one-game playoff setup, it means a lot more to win your division than or over winning a wild card. Jonathan Broxton today was traded to the... Well, actually, I'll get to that in a second. One other thing I want to talk about, Yorvi Torrealba was designated for assignment. Richard, we talked about where we could potentially see him as a fit, and I couldn't really think of a ton last night. I think a good fit, a team that needs just kind of a catcher that can maybe bring something at the plate. The New York Yankees, Russell Martin's been a great defensive catcher this year, but he's kind of struggled at the plate. I think he's hitting under 200. What do you think about where Torrealba can end up?
Well, no bias here at all. I personally don't think. I think Yorvi Torrealba has seen better days for sure, but I think the Tampa Bay Rays, obviously they're my favorite team, but I mean, you look at their catching depth, and they hardly have a pulse at catcher.
What, you're not a fan of Jose Molina?
No, no, not at all. I think he should just call it quits. I'm not a fan of Jose Molina at all. Yeah, Yorvi Torrealba could instantly be the starter there. I think that's how bad the Rays catching depth is. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
He has some playoff experience, so I don't think that would be a terrible pickup for a Rays team that is always a pretty young team. Justin, what did you think about the trade?
I think the trade for Giovanni Soto, you're not going to get a lot out of him out of Giovanni Soto because you know what, you still got Mike Napoli ahead of him in the depth chart. But you know what? With the days that Giovanni Soto is going to be able to play, I don't see him being the light's going to be on him. I don't see him being that type of guy, but you know what? You're going to get great defensive baseball out of him, and that's really what the Texas Rangers really need.
Yeah, it is something that they need, just a backup for Napoli, who's in the lineup, a lot more for his hitting. Jonathan Broxton was the main reliever on the market. He's had a great year this year with the Kansas City Royals. He was dealt today to the Cincinnati Reds, who will use him as the setup man for Aroldis Chapman. A lot of people remember Broxton with the Los Angeles Dodgers, where he had some really good years, struggled in the playoffs, got killed by the Phillies in the playoffs, and then the last few years with the Dodgers, overall things just did not work out. He is with the Kansas City Royals this year. He's had a really solid overall year, and Aroldis Chapman's been a great closer, so Jonathan Broxton should be a solid setup man for him, I think, AC.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, you're talking about he's going to a team that has often been discussed as having the best bullpen in baseball already this year, with Aroldis Chapman in the closer role. He's 2.27. He has a 2.27 ERA this year, 23 out of 27 saves opportunities, 1.4 WHIP. Can't complain about his performance this year, especially in Kansas City, where it's probably pretty tough for him to play coming from L.A. So, you know, that'll only make the Reds' bullpen even better I mean, if they can get better, because they were already one of, if not the best in the MLB. So that's a great deal for the Reds.
All right, my take on this, Jonathan Broxton, he's a good pitcher to have in your bullpen. I mean, earlier this season with the Kansas City Royals, he started off the season not that well, but you know what, he was able to get back on track, get in the flow of things. You know what, he's having a great season right now, really turned things around, and I really like this big acquirement for this bullpen. I mean, this bullpen is stacked. You got Aroldis Chapman, Sean Marshall is there, Sam LeCure, just name a couple of guys in that bullpen, but you also got Ryan Madsen, who is also out with the injury for the year. So maybe next year this bullpen will be better than ever.
Richard, what do you think?
You know, like you touched on, Broxton struggled last. He had a couple of years in LA where he was good. Struggled last year, dealt with some injuries. Had an ERA north of 5.5. He's only owed $1.4 million for the rest of the season. Imagine that. I mean, this guy's just been lights out. He'll join Sean Marshall and Aroldis Chapman. In return, the Royals acquire a lefty in Donnie Joseph, who has been extremely incredible this year. He's 8-3 with a 1.72 ERA with an 11.7 K per 9. Then they get J.C. Solberin. He's 7-7 this year at Double-A with a 4.04 ERA and 9.5 K per 9. He's rated Reds' 12th best prospect. It's going to be interesting next year. We got Madsen coming back. Do they pick up his option? And then Aroldis Chapman, could he transition to that starting rotation finally? I personally think if he transitions to the starting rotation, he'll be get Tommy John surgery in the first 10 starts because of how hard this guy throws, and he doesn't really have any options at all. But it'll be interesting to see if Boston re-signs with the Reds or signs elsewhere because he is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would move Aroldis Chapman to the rotation. Really, he has the perfect makeup to be a closer, and he's doing a great job. No need to mess with that because the Yankees tried to mess with that with how well Java Chamberlain was pitching, and look how things have turned out since then. 3 or 4 years later, Java Chamberlain's a fat guy that broke his leg jumping on a trampoline and is just coming back for his first appearance today. Just a few other smaller trades that went down, and guys, just jump in and give me your thoughts on these. Brad Lincoln was sent to the Toronto Blue Jays. Brad, don't call me Abe Lincoln, from the Pittsburgh Pirates, was sent to the Toronto Blue Jays for Travis Snyder, who was really a failed top prospect. What do you guys think about this move?
I guess I'll start. Yeah, it's not really a blockbuster by any stretch. Travis Snyder, I don't get it. He tears it up in the minors. Comes to the big league and just completely, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how you can be so good at AAA and be so mediocre at the major league level. I think Brad Lincoln.
Ask Dominic Brown.
Yeah, ask Dominic Brown.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I think Brad Lincoln will just help out the Blue Jays as far as AAA depth goes. He might get some mop-up work in the major league level, but it's pretty much just for AAA depth, in my opinion.
The Blue Jays or the Pirates made a few smaller moves that, in the end, should help them. I mean, Travis Snyder, what's the worst thing that could happen? He could suck, and you gave up Brad. Don't call me Abe Lincoln. In the end, you get a few other players, and we'll get to that in a second. AC and Justin, go ahead and talk about this trade.
Yeah, AC, you can go, man.
It was pretty much a your trash for my garbage. I mean, I guess Brad Lincoln isn't trash by any means. He's been a decent guy. He's posting a 2.73 ERA this year, so you can't complain about him. But it's kind of a yawner trade. Like you said, like Richard said, Travis Snyder's been a complete disappointment in the MLB. I think he could help the Pirates, but it's just a matter of whether or not he will. You can talk about how guys could do stuff, but if they don't perform, then it's definitely not going to help the Pirates moving forward. And honestly, I think the Pirates are going to run into a wall in the wild card with the Atlanta Braves.
We'll see what happens with that. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to get to that in about a matter of 3 or 4 minutes. We're going to get to giving the scores of the day, going over some big things. The Pirates had a nice night tonight, and we're also going to redo all of our division picks and then give you a World Series prediction, run over the standings before we get out of here. That'll actually be in a while, though, because with a 4 or 5 person panel, it takes a while to get through everyone. One other trade, speaking of your garbage for my garbage, the Pittsburgh Pirates send Chad, I suck for the Phillies and the Yankees, so I get traded a third time in the season, Qualls, to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Casey McGee, who really had one good season with the Brewers. I thought it was a nice under-the-radar pickup for the Pirates, but things just have really not worked out this season for Chad Qualls, or Casey McGee in that case.
Chad Qualls quickly has become this season my least favorite player. I was extremely ecstatic when he got dealt away from the Phillies from a fan's perspective because I just can't stand the guy personally.
The sad part about Chad Qualls is he actually has been a really good relief pitcher over the course of his career.
Oh yeah, there's no denying that he has a lot of talent, but I mean the way he performed here was just completely unacceptable in my opinion. But yeah, that was another year trash for my garbage move. On honestly, I don't see any team really making that probably won't make any difference for either of the teams involved. So, why?
Yeah, he was in Philadelphia, got dealt to New York after being designated for assignment, and in a New York minute, Justin, he was dealt away.
Yeah, so when you look over to who the Yankees got in Casey McGee, you have to look at who they're going to send down. I mean, they acquired one player. That means you have to send someone down. That means it's more likely to be Romero Pena, who has been bounced around from the AAA to MLB, AAA to MLB. But I really like this acquirement. I mean, Casey McGee, he has power. I mean, he's a little bit older now. He's aging a little bit. But you know what? I can't wait to see what he does with the New York Yankees.
Yeah, he can bring some depth to third base and first base. I believe he can also maybe spell Mark Teixeira, who's having not a great season by his standards. Rich, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Chad Qualls. I remember when he came to the Rays, I think his ERA was like 7. So I'm not a fan of Chad Qualls. I'm surprised they got anything short of an empty dumpster can for this guy. This year he's 2-1 with a 4.89 ERA through 43 games for both Philly and New York. Casey McGahee, who I think will probably serve as the primary third baseman as the Yankees wait for an Alex Rodriguez recovery, he's batting .230 with 8 home runs and 35 RBIs. I mean, you look back 2010, he was a beast, batting .285, 23 bombs, and 104 runs batted in. He signed with the Buccos earlier this year for 1 year, $2.5 million. I think he's just going to be some third base depth along with Eric Chavez until Alex Rodriguez returns.
Yeah, he'll probably get designated for assignment once A-Rod returns. I'll give Chad Qualls a little bit more credit. He was probably worth a used sunflower seed in this trade. But one other trade the Pirates did make was Gabby Sanchez, acquiring him from the Marlins. This was a move I really liked. They needed an extra player at first base and maybe a guy that could play there for the long term. Gabby Sanchez was an all-star last year. After the break, struggled. This entire season he struggled. But he has a ton of potential. I think he's 26, 27 years old, so he's still pretty young. The Pirates are not a small or a big market team, so they have to make moves kind of like this, guys.
Okay, I'm going to start off here. I'm sorry if you guys are about to talk here, but you know what? This trade, this is one of the silliest trades I have ever seen in a long time. I mean, you guys are saying, oh, it's Gabby Sanchez, all big whoop, but you know what? The Miami Marlins, I almost said the Miami Dolphins there, but the Miami Marlins, they've given up a big talent right there. I mean, yes, he's having a hiccup season, but you know what? He's going to bounce back. This is just like what I said about the Phillies when they traded away Pence and Victorino. It's going to come back and bite themselves in the ass. They're now going to be bringing Carlos Lee over to first base, and the Marlins don't even want him anymore. The Marlins pretty much gave up their top prospects for a guy who, frankly, does not have it anymore, and they just wasted 2 potential Gold Glove winners. I mean, Matt Dominguez, watching a lot of film on him. This guy is a potential Gold Glove winner. I wouldn't say MVP right now, but because he still hasn't made his MLB debut yet. But this guy has potential to be a top Gold Glover and a top infielder in the MLB. In return, they got Gorkys Hernandez. I mean, this guy has been traded so many times. I mean, he's probably already halfway through the whole MLB for being traded. But you know what? I don't see Gorkys Hernandez really providing much depth or anything really to this Marlins club at all.
Yeah, this was a head scratcher for the Marlins. I don't know what they were thinking when they did this deal, but I mean it definitely works in the Pirates' benefit. Gabby Sanchez has a lot of talent, and while he has underachieved this season, there's no denying what he can do and the numbers that he can put up. So I mean this will definitely add some depth to the Pirates moving forward. And I really want to know what the Marlins were thinking when they did this, because you basically said it when you said that it was one of the silliest trades of all time for them.
Yeah, you look at this trade, I think what may have made the Marlins do this trade is that they do get the Pirates' competitive balanced draft choice, which is just a compensation pick in the draft. And they trade away Gorky, and they get Gorkys Hernandez, who, I mean, Through 25 Major League games, this guy's batting 80.083.
He's tearing it up.
His slugging is worse. His slugging is worse than his off-base percentage. But
we finally found the next Babe Ruth.
I mean, like I said about Travis Snyder, this guy does tear it up in the minor leagues, though. A career minor league line of 281 with a 343 on-base percentage and a 377 slugging percentage. The Pirates also get Kyle Kaminska, a minor leaguer in the trade, too. Gabby Sanchez, you look back, he's coming off a season in which he hit 266 with 19 home runs and 78 RBIs, but is now just batting 202 with 3 home runs and 17 RBIs. He's 28 years old. I definitely think he'll help the Pirates out.
And the biggest trade of the day, Richard's boy, Lars Anderson, has been sent to the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, Lars Anderson. I'm going to make this really short and quick. Who cares? I don't even care. I really don't care.
Sound Peter Griffin, oh my God, who the hell cares?
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Well, the Red Sox, they do get a young guy, Stephen Wright, who isn't bad. This season, he's 9-6 with a 2.49 ERA in 20 starts, but he does give up almost 5 walks per 9 innings. Lars Anderson just never seemed to get it together with the Red Sox. Maybe he turns that around with the Indians, but it's another one of those, who cares trades.
Yeah,
all right, some of the guys that did stay put, this is from MLB Trade Rumors. Some of the guys names were thrown out there that did not get traded. Josh Johnson, he'll probably get traded in the offseason or sometime next year if he doesn't get his stuff back together. Matt Garza will for sure be traded this offseason. Justin Upton, I'm not sure why the Diamondbacks are so quick to want to get rid of him. He's in a hiccup year, like Justin said, with Gabby Sanchez. Justin Masterson of the Indians is a 4 or 5 pitcher. That doesn't really mean much to me. Josh Willingham has a long-term contract with the Twins, and they put a big value on him. Unlikely he goes anywhere. James Shields could, if the Rays fall out of it, I think he probably will be a waiver trade. I'll ask Richard about that in a second. Chase Headley of the San Diego Padres likely will be traded in the offseason. Somehow but I think the Padres should have traded him now because they convinced people that a guy whose best career numbers are like 268 with 13 home runs was all of a sudden the next Alex Rodriguez. I don't get why teams were willing to give up apparently their top prospects to get Chase Headley, but it is what it is. Shin-Soo Choo is another guy that if the Indians fall out of the NL or AL Central race, he could be a waiver deal. He's a free agent. Or Jason Vargas is one of those guys. I know people are talking about guys like Cliff Lee. I heard Buster Olney say that today, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Cliff Lee is a guy that makes $24 million a year and is a year removed from winning 16 or 17 games, and the Phillies are just going to give him up in a waiver deal? That made no sense to me. Josh Beckett's a possibility. Alfonso Soriano's likely to be moved. Justin Morneau could maybe be moved, and Joe Blanton and Stephen Drew are 2 other guys they mentioned in this article. Out of those names, guys, who do you look at to be moved or stay in their place?
Well, I think you got to look at Matt Garza, who's most likely going to be dealt. I think personally he's more valuable than Ryan Dempster. He's under team control for an extra year, and he's younger. Staying put, probably Josh Johnson. Unless something crazy happens, I think Josh Johnson will be moved. It doesn't really make much sense to me why the Diamondbacks are even shopping Justin up. The guy's like 24.
Hey, we need some outfielders here in Phil. If you want to give us Justin Upton a waiver deal, hell yeah, I'll take that.
I think Chase Headley will be dealt. I think the only reason why teams are so interested in this guy is because third base is pretty shallow. And he is having probably the best season of his career, power-wise anyway. James Shields will likely be an off-season trade. Doesn't make much sense to me why he wasn't traded. It would make more sense to me if the Rays actually acquired somebody, but they didn't. So I think they're just going to try to stand pat and do what they can as far as a wild card berth goes with the team that they have, which I personally don't think is good enough. I love the Rays, but your team cannot be batting 230 and make the playoffs. It just doesn't happen. And he'll likely be dealt in the offseason.
We'll see what happens with
guys.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. When it comes to guys, on my part, the guys who you see that are potential trade to be traded this offseason, in my book, I see guys like Chase Hanley. But you know what, Tim? You did come up a great point there. I would never, ever, ever trade a top prospect in my farm system who I have a lot of highs on, who can possibly be the face of the franchise in the future, for Chase Hanley. I mean, Chase Hanley, like you said, he's all right. I mean, but, you know, overall, he's not going to be Mr. Shine on Me and everything. So I wouldn't really do that trade. Another guy that comes to me when it comes to not trading or anything, it's Josh Johnson. I mean, the Miami Marlins, if they let him go, their ace will go straight back to, they'll go straight to Mark Burley. I mean, you know what? They put Carlos Zambrano in the bullpen. You also got Ricky Nolasco there, who has had a great season last year. If I'm pretty sure it was last year. Nathan Eovaldi, I think that's pretty much how you pronounce it. And you got Wade LeBlanc. So you know what? If you take Josh Johnson out of this rotation, it's going to be more trouble for the Miami Marlins than where they are right now.
The problem with Josh Johnson right now, and this is one of the reasons why it wouldn't make sense to trade him right now, but the problem is he isn't pitching at that level anymore. He's a 4.14 ERA, or at least he did coming into today. If he pitched today, then possibly his ERA might have gone up or down. But this is why I don't like trading players when their value isn't very high. That's why I wasn't a huge fan of the Phillies trading Hunter Pence right now, because players' values are not as high when they're not performing well. And as much as that's the time where you want to say, you know, it's time to go in a different direction, sometimes you have to wait it out at least to the point where they make a few good starts in a row and their value gets a little bit higher, AC.
Yeah, Josh Johnson doesn't make any sense to move right now. The guy's so young, and, you know, he like you said, he doesn't have a lot of value right now. They probably wouldn't get all that they could for him. It just wouldn't make sense. The fact that Cliff Lee was mentioned in that list is absolutely laughable to me, why they would even put that in there. Matt Garza is a guy to me that jumps out as someone who's definitely probably going to get moved either in the off season or maybe even a waiver deal or some sorts. Chase Headley to me is the ultimate average baseball player. He's not amazing, but he's not terrible, and the thing about him is you know what you're going to get. You know that you're not going to get a guy that's going to hit, 35, 40 home runs a year. He's not going to be unbelievably spectacular. He's going to be a solid defender, and he's going to hit, probably somewhere in the range of 275 a year. I don't know what his career average is, but he's the ultimate average baseball player. And if you're going to give up your top prospect for him, then it's definitely not worth it. But he's one of those guys that could work in a place that needs a role player and that needs some solid defense. So you got to look at that when you think about teams that could possibly use him.
Richard, what did you want to add anything else in?
Well, one thing real quick, James Shields, coming off his first start, which is actually on today, it's the trade deadline. He just recorded his fourth straight strikeout, and he came into the eighth inning with only 74 pitches. So, unfortunately for the A's, he wasn't traded because he is back. It looks like he's back to his big game James form from last year. Really, really good to see. And
big game James.
The touch on Josh Johnson, he is not nearly as valuable as they're making him out to be. The guy can't even stay healthy. Why would you trade three top prospects?
Yeah, that's always been the problem with Josh Johnson. Even when he's been really good, he'll have a really good part of the season, and then he'll get injured.
Yeah, I mean, he is a good pitcher, no doubt. But I don't even think the guy's pitched 200 innings. You can check me on that. I don't think he has. And I could not bring myself as a GM to trade three top prospects for a guy who could not pitch all season without getting hurt.
I'm going to check this real quick if he ever has pitched 2 innings, except I searched Josh Johnson and I get the one that plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers instead. So give me a second. AC or Justin, add something in here real quick.
Go for it.
I'll add in something real quick. George Kataris, newly acquired by the Athletics. He just got one of the hits for the Athletics tonight. It's only the third hit against James Shields tonight. And also, excuse me, guys. Evan Longoria will be returning soon. Finally, I'll stop talking about the Rays though. I don't want anybody to think I'm biased. But yeah, it's been a great trade deadline. It's I actually have a couple of blogs posted right now on therealsportstalk.wordpress.com right now about the winners and the losers for each division. Right now I have the AL West and the AL East covered. Go check those out.
Now, Rich, I don't want to cut you off or anything, but you talked about how George Kataris just got the third hit off of James Shields tonight, but when George Kataris was traded from the Milwaukee Brewers over to the Oakland Athletics, there was rumors going on MLBTradeRumors.com saying that Kurt Suzuki could be traded, but do you guys see Kurt Suzuki being traded with the catcher's role over in Oakland already as good as it is right now? Do you think that could be something that could work out during the off season?
I don't think George Kataris is a long-term guy. I'll let you guys answer, then I'll give the Josh Johnson thing.
I definitely think he can be traded. They have a young guy, Derek Norris, who is...
He was a great guy at training camp. Not training camp, spring training.
Yeah. Well, in his limited major league action this year, he's been solid. I think that Kurt Suzuki is definitely a trade candidate. I think Kataris is just depth. But, yeah, I think he could be traded.
Yeah, Kataris is more of that guy that's, kind of around for a little bit and then moves on because there's nothing really more for him to do. But Suzuki could be traded. I wouldn't be surprised if he would be.
You know what? Screw Kurt Suzuki, because I was supposed to do an interview with him, and he never did it. So moving on to some of the scores in the American League and National League, there's a few games going on right now. Seattle at Safeco Field is ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays 7-2. Really, this is a game that doesn't have a ton of playoff implications. Toronto isn't mathematically out, but in reality, they really have very little of a chance in a crowded American League to do much. Currently, Vargas is on the mound, and Sierra is at the plate. Vargas is newly acquired as well. In the top of the eighth, out at AT&T Park, the San Francisco Giants are beating the fading New York Mets. Tim Lincecum still on the mound. He appears to be finally getting back to his old self. Valdespina at the plate for the Mets. In the top of the ninth inning, and Matt Harvey went in that game, pitched pretty well for the Mets in his second appearance. In the top of the ninth at the Coliseum in Oakland, Richards, Tampa Bay Rays up 6-0, trying to get back into the, well, I guess they're sort of in the playoff race, but really trying to get back into the race at 53-50. They are up 6-0 over the MLB's hottest team of the month, the Oakland Athletics. Matt Joyce at the plate right now for the Tampa Bay Rays. In the top of the eighth, out in Chavez Ravine, the Arizona Diamondbacks are up 5-1 over the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks are going to have to win a lot of these divisional games to get back in the race, but they're only 3.5 out of the Giants and Dodgers, so this is not a team that I would sleep on in terms of making the playoffs this season. Some finals that have gone, or some games that have gone final. The Baltimore Orioles continue to hang around. I don't know if I see them making the playoffs, but they continue to hang around. Put up a 7th spot in the second inning on the Yankees. Win 11-5 over Ivan Nova, who's had a tough sophomore year. He's 10-5, yeah, but he has a 4.53 ERA. Tillman picks up the win for the Orioles. The Phillies, surprise, surprise, the night they trade half their team away, decide to show up. They win 8-0. Cliff Lee gets his second win of the season. You heard that right. A $24 million pitcher who's pitched the entire season gets his second win of the year in July 31st, I should say. Steven Strasburg, this is one of the reasons I haven't been too high on the Nationals. And maybe this isn't much, but he comes out, gives up 6 runs in 4 innings tonight, drops to 11-5. He still had a real good season, though. 11-5 with a 3.12 ERA. Boston defeats the Tigers 4-1 in a rain-shortened game. Mortensen picks up the win. Justin Verlander takes a loss. He drops to 11-7. Still only has an ERA at 2.69. No sexual pun intended. Franklin Morales gets the win, or gets a save tonight, his first save of the season. Out in Turner Field in the ATL. The Braves defeat the Miami Marlins 7-1 to improve to 59-54. Chris Medlin picks up the win. He actually came back. I said earlier in the show that he was injured and out for the season. He came back from injury. Ricky Nolasco takes the loss. He's had a rough year, 8-10 with a 4.90 ERA. It has gone final out in Texas, the ballpark in Rangers ballpark in Arlington is what it's called now. The Angels defeat the Rangers 6-2 in a great series. AL Cy Young candidate Jared Weaver just continues to dominate, improves to 14-1 with a 2.29 ERA. I think right now Jared Weaver might be the best pitcher in the game. Derek Holland drops to 7-6 with a 4.96 ERA. Just to say this for the Angels, think about this rotation. You got Jared Weaver, Zach Greinke, Dan Herron, Irvin Santana, and who am I missing, guys? Who's the other guy I can't think of right now?
C.J. Wilson.
Yeah, C.J. Wilson, who, oh, by the way, has been in the World Series 2 years in a row with the Rangers and is having a career year in his first year with the Angels. In Cincinnati, the Reds defeat the San Diego Padres, representing the Priests of America, 7-6. Sean Marshall gets his fourth win, improves to 4-3 with a 2.48 ERA. Jason Marquis, one of those Angels pitchers that somehow is still in the MLB, drops to 4-6 with a 4.08 ERA. I shouldn't say somehow. He's an average pitcher most years and has some really good years. Aroldis Chapman, one of the most least talked about stories in the MLB, and really the Reds are one of the most least talked about teams for some reason. He picks up his 22nd save this year. The Cuban Missile has done a tremendous job for the Reds. Kansas City Royals win 8-3 tonight in Kauffman Stadium over the Cleveland Indians. Luke Hochevar picks up his 7th win of the season. Derek Lowe, who's really done at this point, drops to 8-10 with a 5.52 ERA. In Wrigley Field tonight, the Pirates win 5-0. A.J. Burnett, a guy that the Yankees passed out for nothing, 13-3 this year with a 3.27 ERA, took a no-hitter. He went 7 2/3 with a no-hitter. Coleman takes the loss for the Cubs, drops to 0-2 with a 7.40 ERA. A.J. Burnett completes a one-hitter. Adrian Cardenas, who only has 7 hits coming into this game, only had 7 hits. He gets his 8th hit tonight. That breaks up the no-hitter. The White Sox win 4-3 over the Twins at Target Field. The Twins have just had a horrendous couple seasons. Might be time that they go in a different direction with Ron Gardenhire, and I really question that at this point giving Joe Mauer that long-term deal. Matt Thornton gets his 3rd win of the season for the White Sox. Gray takes the loss for the Twins, and Reed gets a save for the White Sox. And Miller Park in Milwaukee, the Brewers defeat the Houston Astros. I guess we can start using that name again. 10-1. Giovanni Gallardo picks up his 9th win, improves to 9-8 with a 3.92 ERA. Keuchel takes the loss for the Astros, and if you ask how many people know who that is around the MLB, not too many people. Final score of the day in Coors Field in Denver. The St. Louis Cardinals, a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, get the win 11-6 over the Rockies, who have had a nightmare season. Kyle Loesch gets a win. He's had a great year. He improves to 11-2 with a 2.91 ERA. Jeff Francis, who actually hasn't been terrible since they brought him back, drops to 3-3. Any game in particular you guys want to talk about tonight before we get to our MLB repicking our divisions?
Yeah, I'll touch on the Milwaukee Brewers in the Houston game. The Houston Astros, after losing tonight, are the first team in the league to reach 70 losses through 105 games. That's awful.
I had the Brewers this year, or the Astros, I think, coming in this year winning 59 games, something like that. So even though they started off all right, and I don't like to hate on anybody's team, but, I mean, they really are. Them and the Cubs are just horrendous teams right now.
At the beginning of the year, you told me that the Astros could very possibly have the worst record in baseball, and I kind of brushed it off, but now I realize that that's probably the truth.
I thought at the beginning of this year it was possible that the Astros would have the worst record of all time, but yeah, go ahead.
They'll never be worse than the legendary 1898 Cleveland Spiders. They only won like 28 games, so they'll never be that bad. But I don't think
never
they'll win
be
any
as
more
bad as
than
the Dimitri Young Tigers either.
The Astros. I feel so bad for them.
You went through a lot of those years with the Rays, though. Justin, what do you think about the games tonight?
The games were actually pretty well played. It was just a great day in baseball. The MLB Trade Deadline was very exciting today. Glad to see new homes. The Arizona Diamondbacks out 5-1. I'm actually watching this game right now on FSN Arizona. But overall, the games are pretty good.
All right. The one other game or the one other note I do want to throw in there, Dominic Brown comes into the pinch hit role. He's been a prospect for the Phillies. That was a top 5 prospect for Baseball America. He comes in tonight for the Phillies in a pinch hitting role and gets a base hit. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of a seeing eye.
Dominic Brown does something productive.
Sources tell me that happens. Dominic Brown tonight comes in, gets a seeing eye single, I guess you would call it, or as he would call it, a hunky hauler. Either way, that was a great.
Not a hunky hauler. It was not a hunky hauler. A hunky hauler is like a blooper that flies over a second baseman's head and just drops in there by the grace of God. That was just an ugly swing that happened to hit the ball. Because if you watch that at-bat, that was one ugly-ass at-bat. That was terrible.
Yeah, it was. He was overmatched early on in the at-bat. We'll see what happens, but Richard, what do you think?
About Dominic Brown?
Yeah, about Dominic Brown, yeah. Do you think Dominic Brown still has something left? Because I've seen him in the minors. I got his autograph. I saw him hit a home run at the major league level last year at the Phillies game I was at. He has so much potential, and he hasn't put it together yet, and he looked awful in the minors, had an injury. I think somehow it's going to work out for this guy. I don't know if it'll be in Philly, but what do you think?
If not, and I really hope it does, it'll be pretty sad. Like you said, he was a top 5 prospect in all of baseball. For the Phillies' sake, after losing Pence and Victorino today, I hope, by the grace of God, the grace of the baseball gods, that they just somehow empower this guy to contribute to this Phillies ball club who's going to be hurting for the foreseeable future. I really hope it does work out. The guy has a ton of potential. He's a freakish athlete. He's only batting around 280 at AAA. Hopefully, though, he can be the everyday starter for the Phillies.
Getting sent back to the minors really hurt Dominic Brown's confidence, as it would with anyone. And the one thing I want to see is just have the Phillies tune out the fans for a while. Give Dominic Brown not only the rest of this year, give him next year and just play him there. You don't really have a ton to gain at this point unless something really changes in the offseason. Give him that season to figure things out and make things work because he has a ton of potential. He's still only 25 years old, I think. The one thing that really pissed me off is all the bandwagon Phillies fans that hopped on and the runs that they had. Hopefully they're going away now as they're losing. But when Dominic Brown came up, Dominic Brown hit about 245, 250. He was not like hitting 196. 245 was the same amount Raul Ibanez was hitting on this team last year, and he was still starting. He's still playing in the MLB with the Yankees right now. The one thing that people did have concerns about was his fielding in the outfield. He has a cannon arm, but it just struggles with his overall fielding, actually getting the ball to the point where he throws it, and then also in the outfield. Well, we'll see what happens. They've moved him around a ton in the outfield. He had been playing left field the entire season in the minors because they anticipated keeping Hunter Pence long-term and having Dominic Brown play left field. I assume they're going to move him back to right field. He did not start tonight, though. I can't think of who started in right field, but Juan Pierre got the start in left.
Lance Nix started right field.
Who did?
Lance Nix.
Oh, yeah, Lance Nix. And Lance Nix is a pretty solid overall fourth outfielder, but you hope that this might be the worst outfield in the MLB right now.
Oh, I definitely think that it could be. Dominic Brown is so unproven, and I blame management mostly for him because they brought him up too quickly the first time.
Yep.
And as you said, when they send him back down, that just kills somebody's confidence. And he wasn't the greatest defender. He never was as a prospect. It was mostly straight off of hitting, and he did have a lot of power. I remember in his first ever MLB at bat, he put a double high off the wall.
Almost a home run.
What?
It was almost a home run. It was inches away from being a home run.
It was damn close. And, I understand where you're coming from with the fans need to lay off of him, and the organization needs to ignore the what the fans want and do what's best for the team. I get that, but he really has had a lot of chances. These next 2 months will be very crucial for him, and it'll be interesting to see how much they'll play him and where they'll play him, because in the Iron Pigs, they were saying today that he has had a chance to play every single outfield position, including center field, but he probably won't be playing center field at the MLB level. He's a true corner outfielder. And the thing that they most worked on in the minors the second time around, of course, was his defense. That's the thing that he really needed to get better at. So, I mean, we'll see what the results are. Hopefully he can develop into an everyday starter for this team, because God knows we need one.
Yeah, and I can tell you from watching him at the minor league level, he really did not improve a ton, but hopefully he's one of those guys that you look at and say, man, Dominic Brown blows in the field, but when he comes to play, Dominic Brown can hit 330 home runs. I'm living a pipe dream from 3 years ago from what scouts were telling me, or not me, but in person, but scouts were saying about Dominic Brown, I guess. We'll see. I've seen flashes of how good Dominic Brown could be, and hopefully it comes to fruition and he ends up playing that good. I didn't want to dwell on that long. Let's go on to the divisional predictions. We're going to start in the NL East, and Justin will rejoin us here in a minute. He had to take care of something. In the NL East, we'll begin there. Currently, the Washington Nationals lead at a 61-41 record in their last 10 games. They're 8-2. They are 3 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves with a 58-44 record, who lead one of the wild cards. The Mets are 11.5 games back in this division, and the Miami Marlins are 14.5, and the Phillies are 15.5 back. So, who do you guys have winning this division?
I guess I'll start this division. I have the Nationals staying at the top of this division and winning it. It's going to be close though. The Braves, if they can continue what they're doing right now, like we kept saying, they're quietly having one of the better seasons in baseball. If they can continue that, there's no reason that they couldn't take the top spot. But I do think the Nationals will stay atop the division, win the division, and the Braves will be close at their heels, probably within a few games, and they'll take the wild card. Mets will be third. I think the Phillies come back and they'll be fourth in the division moving forward, because especially in the second half, we have seen in the past couple of years that the Phillies are a good second half team, and the Marlins will finish in last, just simply because I think they're losing it big time. With the loss of Gabby Sanchez and all the other crap that's been twirling around with them, it looks like they look like a team that needs to figure some serious things out in the off season. But yeah, I think the Nationals will stay atop the division and win it.
Richard, what do you think?
Depending on when Steven Strasburg's inning limit is and when Mike Rizzo decides to shut him down, I believe it'll be the Atlanta Braves that will just win this division. I really like the Nationals a lot. You know, they got Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez. But the Atlanta Braves acquire Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson that solidify an already solid team. I mean, you look at the Braves; they're pretty vanilla. They don't do too much, but they're a really solid team. I think that they'll just edge out the NL East.
I agree with you on that one, because I had the Braves at the beginning of this year. I really, really thought about picking them over the Phillies, because some of the writing was on the wall, and I said that on Twitter, I'm really high on the Braves this year, and people talked me out of it to convince me to pick the Phillies. That was a stupid move. I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies finish in third, because I think the Mets might fade a bit here the last couple months. We'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure the Nationals will finish in last place. But I think the Atlanta Braves do win this division. I think that the Nationals are probably the more talented overall team, but sometimes it takes a young team a year of going through a pennant race to actually go ahead and win that division. Now, with the 2 wild cards, the Nationals will still have a good chance to make the playoffs, but the Braves are the team that I think things are heading up for us. Even though the Nationals have been 8-2 in the last 10, Richard did mention the innings limit Steven Strasburg could be put on. I don't know if he will be. But overall, this is just a young Nationals team, and sometimes this is the point where a young team who hasn't gone through the thick of a pennant race kind of wears down right around. Actually, give it 2 or 3 more weeks and they wear down. I think the Braves win this division. Ben Sheets looks great for them. Tim Hudson's back to form. Tommy Hanson has never panned out to be what I thought he was going to be. But overall, they have a really good rotation, adding in Paul Maholm. They have good outfield depth. Chipper Jones in his final season. I think that in his final season he's going to be in a position where he can maybe make a run. In the playoffs, I think the Braves hold on to win the NL East. Justin, who do you have?
All right, I'm agreeing with Richard here. I got the Washington Nationals in this one. Like Richard said, it's pending. I'm not saying it's going to be. Let me change that up a little bit. When they shut down Steven Strasburg for the season, you still have guys like Gio Gonzalez, Edwin Jackson, Jordan Zimmerman, and that leaves one person out of the pitching rotation. You can go to your bullpen. You can look at guys like maybe Sean Burnett coming in, or one of my personal favorite guys, Henry Rodriguez, who could possibly be in a starting rotation in the near future. But right now with this stacked pitching rotation as it is, I don't see him being in the rotation. I mean, this team, very great in the infield, very great in the outfield. The outfield is really stacked up. You got Bryce Harper. This kid, I'm having a change of words here. I mean, I thought Bryce Harper coming up through the system, he was going to be rushed. He was not going to perform well at all. But you know what? He is really changing what I've said about him. He's doing a phenomenal job. But you know what? Overall, he's just doing a great job. When you look over to first base, when you got Adam LaRoche, the guy can hit for power. This is what the Washington Nationals need. They need that power hitter heading into the playoffs. And let's just see what he can do. And then you also got the leader in Ryan Zimmerman. This guy is playing great defensive baseball, playing great offensive baseball, can hit for power, can hit for average. This is everything what this team needs in a hitter like him.
I'll stick with what I said. I think that Bryce Harper is I'll take Mike Trout over Bryce Harper in a second. And then also right now I think Bryce Harper's in like 269. I think he's an average player right now, who's a little too cocky for being a 19-year-old in the MLB. But any last things you guys want to throw in on the NL East?
Yeah, real quick, speaking of the Braves, Tommy Hanson was placed on the DL today.
Yeah, well, that might be the reason why he's struggled so much.
Something that none of us touched on was the return of Jason Worth. I don't think anybody said anything about that. But supposedly he's coming back very soon. And we'll see if he can be a factor later in the season.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how much playing time certain guys in that outfield get now. Moving on to the NL Central, let me go over... Actually, I just accidentally X'd out of the standings here. So, I think that it will be interesting to see Jason Worth come back because he got that huge contract, and things just have not worked out so far. We'll wait and see what happens. I think the Nationals are certainly going to contend for those 2 wild cards, and after we give you the division preview, we'll give you our wild card predictions. In the NL Central right now, the Cincinnati Reds lead, even though they're not really getting talked about, at 62-41 in their last 10 games. Get this, they've won 9 of those last 10 games. The Pirates in the last 10, who are in second place, have won 6 of the 10, so they're not doing awful. 59-44, 3 games out. They haven't had a winning season since 1991, I believe. This would be their 20th straight losing season if they were somehow to fade out, which won't happen. The Cardinals, who are not out of it yet, we know they were 8 games out coming to the last month of that wild card spot. They went on that crazy run at that incredible last night of the MLB season last year, made the playoffs, and unfortunately beat my team and won the World Series last year. So they're not a team that's out of it, but they need some production from Adam Wainwright, and they need Chris Carpenter to come back, which I'm not sure is going to happen. The Brewers are 15 games out of 47-56. And then you got the Cubs, who are 43-59, 18.5 out. They're not even in last place. The Astros are 10 games out of the Cubs, who are 43-59 for that 5th place spot. The Astros next year will be moving into an even tougher division as they move to the AL West. So in their final year in the NL, they're really lighting it up at a quality 35-70 with a .333 winning percentage, 1-9 in their last 10 games. I think Cincinnati holds on and win this division. Matt Latos has performed very well. Joey Votto's having an MVP-type season. This is a team who's been here, been through this type of race before. And I said coming into last MLB season, I thought that for some reason I had a gut feeling that the Reds would struggle last year and then come back this year and be stronger. And somehow I pulled that one out of my ass, and it's working out because the Reds have come back this year and played very well, guys.
Yeah, for sure. I have to agree with the Reds. I think the Pirates have a chance at a wild card spot, but I think the Reds will win this division. They get some quality starting pitching. They acquired Broxton today, who just solidifies the league's best bullpen. Their offense is clicking. I just think they'll win the NL Central.
All right, I'm going to go in next here. So, I'm going to go with the Pirates in this one. I really like what the Pirates did this season, doing very good. They're getting the best out of A.J. Burnett, dating back to his Miami Marlins, the Florida Marlin days. Eric Bedard, a little questionable, but I'm still sticking with James McDonald as the team's ace. I mean, this kid is very, very great. He has great velocity in his pitching. He has a great fastball. Adding Wandy Rodriguez to the mix, this whole infield is doing good. Rod Barajas is doing good. Andrew McCutchen having an NL-type MVP season. The bullpen, I got a little bit of questions here and there about it, but you know what? I think this team's really going to rely on the hitting throughout most. I just think this is overall going to be a great season for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're going to end that streak. And for me, with the Reds facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates in the final week of the season to end the season in a 3-game stretch, it's going to come down to the wire between these two teams.
All right, and I think that it's going to be tough to see if the Pirates do make the playoffs, who they would pitch. Let's say that if they're in a 1-game playoff, I think A.J. Burnett goes because he's pitched in the World Series before. We'll see. Maybe they do go with James McDonald, but A.J. Burnett, actually his numbers look a little bit better right now than what they did a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, James McDonald was a clear ace, but right now Burnett's pitching at a higher level, and with the experience factor, I think they'd go with him. And you mentioned Andrew McCutchen. Him and Joey Votto are not only competing for this division, but they're competing for the MVP. And in all likelihood, whoever wins this division will likely be the MVP because that's usually how things work.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew McCutchen is batting, what is he batting? I think he's batting around like 800 now. No, I'm just kidding. But he's batting like 360, 370. I think that the Pirates, like I said, and I'll reiterate it again, they'll probably make the postseason, but I just feel like the Reds are the team to beat. And I think that if given a 1-game playoff, the Pirates will send A.J. Burnett to the mound. James McDonald has definitely been struggling as of late.
That happens with young pitchers. AC, who do you have?
I got the Reds staying atop the division, but the Pirates are definitely going to nip at their heels throughout the rest of the season. I think this division will probably be decided maybe by 1 or 2 games at most. But yeah, it's odd because the Reds have the best record in baseball, and it's been extremely quiet. I don't know how quietly you can have the best record in baseball, but they've done it somehow. Like you said, Joey Votto is having an unbelievable season, and they're just they're playing like a team right now. They're playing like a team that knows, that knows what they're doing, that knows what their goals are, and they definitely. I think they're going to stay atop the division. They're, like Richard said, they're the team to beat. I wouldn't count out the Cardinals just yet, but it's becoming increasingly obvious that they need some production from somewhere to propel them past a team like the Pirates. But I wouldn't count them out just yet simply because of what happened last year.
Yeah, no, and I just realized, and I knew that the Reds had a great record. I didn't even realize that they had the best record in the MLB. Usually that goes to someone in the American League. By the time things are done, it's probably not likely that they will have that, but it speaks to a team that had a slower start, but Johnny Cueto's been a Cy Young candidate this year, and Matt Latos, who I love that pickup for them, has been a really solid number 2. The Reds have a nice pitching rotation heading into the playoffs. A lot will depend if maybe Bronson Arroyo can get going, but I like their chances heading into the playoffs. The most interesting division in baseball right now, maybe the AL West, you can make a case for it too, but the most interesting division for me is the NL West, where the San Francisco Giants currently lead, and the Dodgers are tied with them, actually. The Giants have a 55-47 record, and the Dodgers have a 56-48. Now, they're both about to win their games, I believe, so they're tied. They will remain tied. The Arizona Diamondbacks, who a lot of people are counting out, they're only one game over 500 at 52 and 51, but they're 3.5 out. San Diego's at 44 and 61, 12.5 out. And then Colorado's at 37 and 64. I think that this is the most interesting division. I want to say that the Diamondbacks are going to come back because I really have a kind of a feeling, but they might be a little bit too far down at this point. They didn't make any huge moves at the deadline, so they're a team to watch in terms of making waiver deals and just hoping that some of the guys like Daniel Hudson who've struggled this year, that they kind of come back and start playing at a higher level. But that's what the Giants are getting right now. For all the pickups that the Dodgers made, I think that the Giants are going to win this division this year. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Tim Lincecum hasn't even pitched well. Yet Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner, Ryan Vogelsong, they've all pitched at ace-type levels this year. I think that the Giants win this division. Guys, just keep the conversation going. I have to step away for a minute.
All right, well,
we lost Justin in this call, by the way, so, yeah.
Real quick, I just want to touch on the Astros. Their road record is 10-43. So, if you're a fan of any other team but the Astros and they're coming to your ballpark, expect your team to win. Anyway, the NL West, very interesting. The Giants definitely have a stellar rotation with all the guys that Tim listed. But the Dodgers also have a guy, I think his name's like AC, I can't remember. Is it Clayton Kershaw? I believe that's his name. He's pretty good last time I checked.
Yeah, I've heard some good stuff about that guy.
Yeah, definitely. The scouts say it's pretty good. No, but I mean, they acquire Hanley Ramirez, they acquire Shane Victorino. But then you look at the Giants, rather. They get Hunter Pence. This is tough. I mean, I'm gonna be bold here, and I'll go with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers just have the better offense, even with San Francisco adding Pence. Their outfield is now Victorino, Kemp, and Ethier. They have Hanley Ramirez. They have A.J. Ellis, who's playing really well. And I think that their pitching, definitely not up to the Giants' standards, but I think that it's still pretty good. They also acquired Brandon Lee, who will help solidify the back end of their bullpen.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you in that perspective. I think I'm going to take the Dodgers in this one, but this is a really tough one because both of these teams are really, really looking good right now. Like you said, the Giants haven't been all that great with the pitching, but it hasn't been so awful that, I mean, they're in first place, so they're obviously doing something right. And the addition of Pence is only going to help with their offense and everything else. But when you look at the Dodgers, it's pretty crazy. You got Victorino, Kemp, and Ethier. That's probably, I think it's the best outfield in baseball, to me, definitely. So, their offense is, I think, superior to the Giants, and I think they can hang around with them pitching-wise. So I don't see why that they wouldn't be able to win the division.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back too, and I have the Giants winning the division. I agree with both of you guys. The rotation's been pretty solid besides Lincecum. I think Lincecum's going to get back on track. Melky Cabrera's had a great year. I mean, that's actually one of the better outfields as well. You had Melky Cabrera, Andres Torres, who isn't a great hitter, but he brings a lot of speed to the table, and also Hunter Pence out in right field now. You have Pablo Sandoval. This is a team who got killed by a horrendous hitting last year. They made some nice lower key moves, and then Hunter Pence, a guy that Brian Sabean's wanted to get for a couple seasons now, he got him today, and I think that he's going to bring a spark to that team. He's going to be real motivated because he didn't believe that the Phillies were going to trade him, and they did, and I think he isn't going to be very happy about that. I think he ends up playing well. The Dodgers are certainly going to be a team that's right in, and so are the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, a complete gut feeling because this division's so up in the air. Just a complete gut feeling is that the Dodgers, in my opinion, will edge out the Giants.
we'll see what happens. Justin wanted me to say this. Justin accidentally dropped out of the call, and I don't know if Bruce is able to get him back in. We'll see about that. But he wants. I'll just say what he has until then. Justin had the Giants winning this division. Looking at the 2 wild card spots, let's go over these real quick. The 2 teams that I have winning these 2 wild cards are the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Pittsburgh Pirates, which means I believe that the Washington Nationals will have a rough next few months. I've been saying this the whole year, and it's not that I'm saying this because I want the Nationals to fall down this division, but I just kind of have that feeling that is what's going to happen, and that they're going to just miss out and be in third place for the wild card. I think the Dodgers win the first wild card, and then the Pittsburgh Pirates go back to the playoffs for the first time in a long time as the second wild card team. The Dodgers will host then a 1-game playoff against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Well, with that said, I don't think it'll be a team from the NL West that'll make it. I just feel like it's going to be the Nationals and the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Nationals, even without Strasburg, are still a really good team. They have, they have Michael Morris. They have Bryce Harper, who is average. I mean, obviously his name is more bigger than how he's been playing, but they have Ryan Zimmerman, who's really turned things around. They have their rotation, even without Strasburg, is stellar. They have a pretty good bullpen. And the Pirates, man, I just want them to win it so bad. The fans of Pittsburgh, the loyal fans of Pittsburgh, probably one of the greatest sports towns, Pennsylvania in general being one of the greatest sports states in the country. We'll finally get to see the Buccos return to the playoffs. You got Andrew McCutchen, who's playing really well. Their rotations have been doing really well. Tim Kirkjian alluded to it earlier during the live look-in of A.J. Burnett's almost no-hitter, that this is the reason why the Pirates will probably make the playoffs is because of their pitching. And anytime you got a guy like Andrew McCutchen on your team, it's a good thing to have.
Oh, yeah, no question. I think a lot of people are rooting for the Pirates just simply because it's been so long, and they're a team that, not a whole lot of people dislike, because you really can't, because they haven't done anything to you in the past 20 years. So, I'm definitely rooting for them, but I definitely think the Giants will get in the wild card, and I think if the Nationals stay atop the division, stay atop the NL East like I predicted, the Braves are going to nab that second wild card spot. But I think regardless, I say the Giants are going to be the team that wins that 1-game playoff in the wild card, because they're going to heat up in the second half with the addition of Hunter Pence. Their pitching hopefully will come back for them. Tim Lincecum will get back on track, and they'll be dangerous moving into the playoffs, I think.
And for my 1-game playoff prediction, it's tough between the Dodgers and the Pirates. I think the Pirates pull this one out. I think A.J. Burnett will go in and pitch a solid 1 game over a guy like Clayton Kershaw. Just a gut feeling there. I know it doesn't make a ton of sense. And if I would have told you before this year that I'd take if I would have told myself this before this year, that I would take A.J. Burnett over Clayton Kershaw in a 1-game matchup, I would have laughed. But right now, I think that that's the way things are going. We'll look towards the American League East now as the Yankees, despite not having CeCe or Andy Pettitte right now, lead this division at 60-43. In their last 10, they have been 3-7, but they're also missing A-Rod. To think what they're doing right now is actually really impressive, and they're not really getting any production offensively out of Russell Martin. The Orioles at 55-49 are 5.5 games back. They were relatively quiet at the trading deadline. They placed Jim Thome on the DL. They're interested in potentially picking up Lyle Overbay, who's designated for assignment. We'll see if that happens. Tampa Bay, who picked up the best player out of all these teams, Ryan Roberts, is 53-50, 7 games out. Boston, they had a nice stretch there against the Yankees. I believe they swept them this past weekend. They are 53-51.
2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. Okay, they are 7.5 out. Not necessarily out of it, and the Blue Jays aren't necessarily out of it at 51-51. They're just kind of that team that can never seem to catch a break. I think the Yankees hold on and win this division because the Rays have not been what I thought they were going to be. David Price has had a great season, but they have not been nearly as good as I thought they're going to be, and there's still a lot of questions in terms of when Evan Longoria is going to come back, and some of their younger players haven't progressed, like Desmond Jennings, guys like that, haven't progressed quite the way that I thought they would this early on, and it's still early in their careers, but the Rays are a team that can compete for a wild card, and so are the Orioles. So I'll get to those two teams a little bit more when I break down who I have winning the wild cards. But who do you guys have taking the AL East?
I have to go with the Yankees. 5.5 game lead over the Orioles, and I think the Orioles are going to. I think they're going to fade pretty soon here. It's a great story for Buck Showalter to be managing this team to such a great record. But the Yankees, they've just been in a slump. They've been 3-7 over the last 10 games. They've lost 4 in a row, and that's not the Yankees. I think they'll pick it back up. Yankees with CC Sabathia, and just all the guys they have in their lineup, I think that they'll win the American League East.
Yeah, I can't see the Yankees losing their grasp on this division. I do agree with you in the sense that I think Baltimore's going to fade pretty soon. I actually think Tampa Bay is going to sneak by them and take second place, but it probably won't be enough to get any wild card spots. But, yeah, like you said, the Yankees are struggling as of right now. But, that's not to say that's going to carry over into the postseason. They'll probably heat up at the right time again like they always do into September and be a big-time threat in the postseason.
Yeah, we'll move on to the AL Central right now. The White Sox are leading us right as it approaches 1 o'clock on the East Coast. The White Sox lead this division at 56-47. They continue to prove me wrong. I had them in last place at the beginning of the year. At a .544 winning percentage, they're 6-4 in the last 10, and they had a quietly pretty solid deadline. The Tigers were one of the losers in my trade deadline. We're actually going to get to that in a minute. I forgot completely. We're going to give our trade deadline winners and losers. They're 2.5 out. The Cleveland Indians 6 games out at 50-53. The Minnesota Twins are 44-59, 12 games out, and the Kansas City Royals. Well, the Pirates have turned things around. The Royals have not. 42-60, 13.5 out. I have the Tigers winning this division. As much as things have not worked out, they're just so much more talented, I think, than the White Sox. Justin Verlander's had another really solid season, and someone else has got to step up in that rotation, or the Tigers have to make a waiver deal. But I think something will work out, and Prince Fielder will have a much better last 2 months than he has had so far. But this does remind me of the 2000, I think it was 8 or 9 season, where I just kept waiting for the Tigers to come back and win that division, and it never happened. So that may be like that, but I don't get that expectation.
Yeah, well, I have to disagree with the Tigers. They're just way too inconsistent for me. I mean, outside of Verlander, Scherzer's been okay. Fister's been pretty good. But I think the White Sox with Peavy and Sale and Quintana and now Francisco Liriano, I just think that they're a better team. Detroit may be more talented, but they just cannot seem to get any steady run production, only putting up 1 run tonight against the Red Sox. And you got 2 guys who are beasts at the corners and field positions. You got Prince Fielder first, Cabrera at third. I just think the White Sox are the better team, and I think that they'll win this division, I want to say, by 3 games.
I have to agree with that. I think the White Sox are going to stay atop the division. Like you said, Detroit is just a team that is not showing a whole lot of consistency. They'll win a series and then they'll lose a series, and then they'll win a series and then they'll lose a series. It just goes back and forth, and they can't seem to get anything going offensively or on the mound besides Verlander. They've been very middle-of-the-pack type team this year, which, I mean, it's been good for second place in the AL Central, but I think they're just going to kind of stay where they're at for the rest of the season, and I think the White Sox will probably coast into the postseason at the top of this division.
All right, and both those teams are certainly in contention for the wild card. the Indians aren't necessarily out of it 6 games out, but in their last 10, they're 3-7, so they kind of look like they're fading. They could be a team that maybe dumps some players like Shin-Soo Choo in the waiver period, which you can. What you do is you try and pass a player through waivers. If anyone claims him, then you can try and work out a deal. If anyone doesn't claim him, then you can just trade him to another team, and either they'll pick up the whole contract or you'll give like a small piece, but usually it's nothing huge that goes in return for those type of players. So the Indians might give up someone. We'll see what happens in this AL Central. In the AL West, the Texas Rangers lead at 59-43. Things are getting tight though. The Oakland Athletics, who, if you're a casual baseball fan, you probably haven't even realized this. They're tied with the Angels for second place at 56-46. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've had a ton of walk-off wins and the best record in the month of July. It came out of nowhere, really. I was surprised that they were above 500 heading into the All-Star break, and then after that, they just have turned it on. And then Seattle, who was one of the biggest sellers at the deadline, 48-57, 12.5 games out. They're done. But there's 3 teams that can win this division right now, guys. So who do you have?
I'd have to go with the Texas Rangers. I love what Oakland's doing. They remind me a lot of my Rays in 2008. I think they'll just miss a playoff berth, though. They just don't really have a consistent offense. You can't, base your season off of all these walk-off wins. I think it's just something of luck. I love the Angels and adding Zach Greinke. The Rangers got Ryan Dempster. He doesn't exactly match Greinke, but it's kind of like like a Greinke, but we got Dempster. So it kind of evens out the playing field there, and I think the Rangers will win this division.
Richard, do you remember what happened to your Rays at the end of that 2008 season?
Well, go ahead. What do you have to say? What do you have to say?
No, AC, go ahead.
Man, that was cold, man. Yeah, but I have the Rangers winning this division also. I think the Angels will sneak back in a second. Oakland, I think they just got their 12th walk-off win of the year, so they're playing some really exciting baseball. But I just think the Angels are going to be a more talented team in the second half, and with the addition of Zach Greinke and all that's going right for them right now, I think they slide into that second spot and most likely get the wild card. I do like what Oakland's doing, though. They're quietly hanging around. They're that team that nobody thinks about, but you have to prepare for Oakland. When you play Oakland, you definitely have to prepare for them, and they're a team that won't go by lightly.
Yeah, they're one of those younger teams that pretty much says never says die. I don't think anyone, myself included, looked at them at the beginning of this year and said that they have any chance to really do anything. Look, they lost 8-0 tonight to the Rays. James Shields, who's had a rough season, came out tonight and gave them a solid performance. I'm really conflicted about these wild card predictions, so I want you guys to start with your first wild card in the American League. Richard, who are you going to take?
I'll take the Los Angeles Angels all day, every day. They may not be able to beat the Rangers as far as the division lead, but they are good enough to get the first wild card. They got Trout, they have Pujols, they have Morales, they have Trumbo. I mean, the rotation is completely stacked. And that 1-2-3 punch, what is projected to be Weaver, Greinke, and then C.J. Wilson. I think they'll get the first wild card.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Angels definitely will get the first wild card. Everything you said is what I was going to say. Basically, they do have a stacked rotation. I think probably one of the most dangerous rotations going into the postseason for them. I'd definitely be scared to play the Angels in a series, and then with this one-game playoff, it should be interesting to see what they do, but I think they'll definitely get the first wild card spot.
Yeah, the toughest thing, I agree with both of you guys, the toughest thing for the Angels with this rotation they have now, it may be easier for them to get to the World Series once they actually make the playoffs, that one-game playoff. Anyone can win in one game. So I'm almost 100% sure Jeff Weaver's going to be pitching, or Jared Weaver, Jeff Weaver sucked. I'm almost 100% sure Jared Weaver will be going in that game, and I believe the Angels will win, and I'll get to who I have as my second wild card in a moment. But you guys are right. I think once it comes to if they're actually able to get in the playoffs with this rotation and with a lineup that features Pujols, Trout, and Trumbo, no one knows how Trout and Trumbo are going to react to their first playoffs. It might not be Mike Trumbo or Mark Trumbo's first playoffs, but I'm 100% sure it is Mike Trout's first playoffs. We'll see, but it's a team that is very deep and looks like they're built for a great future, even if it doesn't happen this year. Who do you guys have as the second wild card?
Well, there's going to be that one-game playoff, and it's going to be Jared Weaver opposite of David Price. I think the Rays, no bias here, I swear, no bias here. I think that the Rays will get the second wild card. You just got to look at how they've been playing lately. James Shields comes out tonight and deals. Hellickson, the other night, was dealing. Matt Moore was dealing. David Price is a beast. Evan Longoria is going to be back soon. They definitely need to make a waiver move. I think they need to go out and get a big bat. A lot of people have been talking about Alfonso Soriano. If they can get him, it's almost a lock because I think that the Rays rotation is really, really, really good. Overall, I think it's better than the Angels. I mean, the Angels 1-2-3 punch is probably better than the Rays, but I think
the way they're pitching right now, it may be. But if you ask me at the beginning of the year what rotation do I want, it's definitely the Angels.
See, I don't know about that. If you at the beginning you're talking about the beginning of the season, I don't know how you couldn't pick the Rays. James Shields was coming off probably the best season of his. Well, actually, probably it is the best season of his career last year. David Price has always been a stud. Jeremy Hellickson coming off a really solid rookie year, and then Matt Moore, the phenom, who we saw win against the Rangers last year in the playoffs. But I think it'll be a good one-game playoff, Jared Weaver versus David Price.
Put it this way, I think if you're asking me who I want for the next 5 years, I'll take the Rays. Who I want for this year, I'll take the Angels because it's just a deeper rotation in terms of experience. Dan Herron is your number 4 starter. This is a guy who I might have been a bit off with this. I thought he would win the Cy Young at the beginning of this year. He's had a really pretty decent season for them, especially considering he's their number 4 starter. I'll take whoever you guys have at number 5. I can't think of it off the top of my head over Irvin Santana, but you get my point. I agree. I think and I understand it's not any bias. The Rays will win that second wild card. Something tells me that I want to pick the Rays, but Yoenis Cespedes has been great. But if you look around this team, their ace is Bartolo Colon.
Yeah.
Seth Smith is their DH. Brandon No Legs Inge is their third baseman. Sogard is their come on, I mean, it's been fun to watch, and they're a bright team for the future. Ryan Cook's had a solid year for them. Grant Balfour's done a nice job. They have a pretty solid bullpen. Kurt Suzuki, though, we're talking about them already trading Kurt Suzuki, and he's their starting catcher. I want to see the Rays win, or I want to see the A's win, but I think that the Rays come out. David Price is probably the second Cy Young candidate behind Weaver. David Price is having another great season after somewhat of a disappointing year last year. James Shields appears like he's getting back on track. Matt Moore, who I thought would be Rookie of the Year, he won't. Cespedes will be, but he's coming back on strong here late. I think that the Rays do make a run, and I know that they've been disappointing to this point, but this is a team that appears to play well in the second half pretty much every year.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could disagree with you guys, but I can't. The Rays just look like a team that, is... I know, Richard, that you are very disappointed that they didn't make a move at the deadline, but they're not that bad right now. They were pretty content to stand pat with what they are. Like you said, they got a great rotation moving forward in the second half of the year. They're quietly winning games. I want to root for the Athletics, but I just don't see it. They're probably the most exciting team to watch in baseball, but that doesn't always mean that they're the best or that they're even better than the Rays. Rays beat their ass tonight, so I mean, if you're asking me who I'm taking in the next 2 months, I'm going to say the Rays over the Athletics, and they get that second wild card spot.
Yeah, so we are all in agreement. We'd all love to see the A's, although obviously Richard wants the Rays more, but we'd all love to see the A's in the playoffs. Unfortunately, it reminds me when the Rockies got hot in 2007, except the Rockies won 22 of 23 in September, late August and September, and the A's have done this in July and now early August. So unfortunately, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to hold up this level in a crowded American League. I wouldn't be surprised if even the Orioles and a couple teams in the AL East finish ahead of them. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do well, although I'd like to see the Orioles in the playoffs too, just so Jim Thome could get a ring. But we'll see what happens with all the divisional races. Guys, give me a couple of trade deadline winners. I think there's some obvious ones and then maybe some less so obvious ones.
I mean, obvious ones, you got the Angels definitely being a winner.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious. I think everybody's got that. I think the Reds are a winner for picking up Broxton, definitely shoring up that already amazing bullpen. I think the Pirates would be a winner.
I think the city of Los Angeles is a winner in general.
Yeah, the entire city of Los Angeles is. I don't know how the heck the Dodgers are getting all these guys, but it's really incredible if you stand back and look at all they've done in the past couple of weeks or in the past week alone. It's pretty amazing. Like I said earlier, they're going to have to take out a fifth mortgage to pay for all these players or whatever.
Yeah, and even the Yankees, I think, are a bit of a winner. They didn't make any huge moves, but they had a veteran in Ichiro to replace Brett Gardner. It was kind of like the heart of that team. He's gone for this season. I like what they did, and there was one other team I had. Let me look here real quick that I thought was a winner. I think the Chicago White Sox.
Chad Qualls makes them a winner. Seriously, I'm not even going to lie. Just getting rid of Chad Qualls makes them a winner.
Hell yeah, man. I think the White Sox had a great deadline. The Cardinals, well, I'll get to some of the disappointments here in a second. I think that the Diamondbacks should have done something, but I don't know if I'd call them a loser. I mean, even some of these teams, when they trade away players, I can view it as a win just because they're doing it so well. But it's tough for you to tell who's going to be a winner now because you don't necessarily know what all these prospects will become in a few years. Richard, who do you have as your winners?
My winners, real quick, I got the San Francisco Giants. You know, they acquired Hunter Pence. The Dodgers and their 18 acquisitions, not really 18, but a lot, including Hanley Ramirez, Randy Choate, and others. The Astros, they're winners because they're going to get the first overall draft pick because they're just so awful. Cincinnati acquiring Broxton, solidifying their bullpen. The Atlanta Braves and getting Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson, I think that helps them a lot. The Rangers and the Angels and acquiring probably arguably the two best available pitchers in the trading market. The White Sox and getting Liriano, who hopefully turns it around and can turn into a solid 4 or 5 starter for them. And Brett Myers, who can set up Addison Reed very nicely. And I mean, I guess the Yankees, they got rid of Chad Qualls, like you guys said. But they got Ichiro, who will serve as a very good player in the absence of Brett Gardner.
Yeah, no question. All right, those are our winners. As we pretty much wrap it up here, who do you guys have as your losers of the trading deadline?
Miami Marlins, big-time loser there. That's really a disappointment. I mean, I would have liked, like you said, I would have liked to see the Diamondbacks do something along with the Rays. And also the Orioles, I think they should have maybe gone after some things a little bit harder. Trying to think of some other big losers.
Your town, your team, your Philadelphia Phillies? Yes and no.
Simply because we don't know what these prospects are going to bring. We don't know how Lindblom's going to, fit into the whole bullpen and everything. I wouldn't call them losers yet, but they did pretty much what they had to do. We had to unload
the Shane Victorino. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that we had to unload some salary, and I saw somewhere that they unloaded like $28 million or something.
Yeah, they're under the luxury tax now.
They're under the luxury tax now, which is actually a pretty big deal. But I just didn't like to see, it left a sour taste in my mouth at the end of the day, because it's the first time, pretty much the first time in my life that really mattered, that they were big-time sellers at the deadline, which kind of is, it's a tough pill to swallow, but they needed to do it. And if these prospects work out, I can't call them losers.
The last time the Phillies traded away players like this was like 2001, 2002, in my early days of watching baseball. 2000 when they traded away Curt Schilling. I mean, but other than that, they really haven't had enough good players to trade away anyone. I think that they did a good job in getting this players for Shane Victorino. I'm not thrilled with the Hunter Pence deal, but in the end, the fact that they won 102 games last year and they're sellers at this point, it sucks, man.
What's really amazing to me is how much can change in 365 days.
Not even.
This day last year, we were talking about, you know, how likely it was that they were going to win the World Series, and it's amazing to me that I'm sitting here staring at a 46-57 record, thinking, how the hell did this happen?
This day last year, I'm going to give you a quick flashback. The Phillies acquired Hunter Pence. The Eagles signed Nnamdi Asomugha, and we were the dream team, and we were going to go win our first Super Bowl. Phillies were going to go win their second World Series in a few years, third overall. A year later, the Eagles blew last year. Hopefully they'll do better this year. And the Phillies did not win, in the words of Stewie Griffin. Richard, what do you think?
As far as losers go, I wouldn't really consider the Diamondbacks as a loser. They really did push to get a really front-line starting pitcher. They're not necessarily losers. The Cubs aren't losers either, and you might be wondering how they're not losers by trading their entire team, but I think they had to in order to rebuild. I think the Cardinals are a loser. They did get Edward Mujica, or however you pronounce his last name. That's it. I mean, they're trying to push for a wild card berth, and they only get him. Who else here? Miami Marlins. I mean, you go back to opening day. You know, they open up a new ballpark, have all these new studs, new uniforms, new everything, and then they just pretty much trade away everybody. So I'm guessing
there were people picking them. There are people picking the Marlins to go to the World Series at the beginning of this year, and here we are. Well, there are people picking the Phillies to go to the World Series, too, so I guess I should just kind of shut up on that one. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps up all the losers and one of the most depressing days of my baseball life. Go over some of the scores here real quick. Orioles beat the Yankees 11-5. Phillies beat the Washington Nationals 8-0. We're definitely making a playoff run. Red Sox win 4-1 over the Detroit Tigers. Braves defeat the Marlins 7-1. The Angels defeat the Texas Rangers 6-2. The Reds defeat the Reds defeat the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds defeat the San Diego Padres 7-6. 8-3 Kansas City beats Cleveland. Pirates improved to 59-44, but while beating the Cubs 5-0. 10-1 win by Milwaukee over Houston. 4-3 win by the White Sox over Minnesota. Tampa Bay defeats the hot Oakland A's 8-0. St. Louis wins 11-6 over Colorado. 7-2 win from Seattle over Toronto. 8-2 win, Arizona defeats the Dodgers. And then 4-1 win, the Giants destroy Matt Harvey's second start. Tim Lincecum picks up the win. Matt Harvey drops to 1-1 with a 1.59 ERA. Jeremy Affeldt, or as now in the Hall of Fame announcer Tim McCarver once called him, Jeremy Aflac, gets his second save of the season. So a great day in baseball to see all these trades go down. Unfortunately, a lot of the selling involved myself and AC's team, and Richard's team didn't do a ton. But it was a great trade deadline, guys.
It was one of the more exciting ones that I can remember, and a lot of people have been saying it's one of the more exciting ones in the past decade or even further back. It was definitely a fun day, definitely changed some teams for the rest of the season and possibly longer. And it's just a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be watching it.
Yeah, it was a great trading deadline. I think I wrote like 4,000 blogs today covering all the trades. at least trying to anyway. Yeah, like you said, the Rays didn't do anything, which is really disappointing. But overall, from a baseball standpoint, I love the trade deadline. I feel like there's no trade deadline like baseball. I feel like it's the most active, most names going different places. There's always that superstar getting dealt. There's just all these rumors all the time. And, I mean, baseball, this is today is the epitome of why baseball is the greatest sport on the planet Earth.
I couldn't agree more, and a lot of people don't like to see things change with their team, but in the end, change is a good thing because people will get excited over some of the new players and new faces that do join their team at that time, unless you're the Kansas City Royals, because usually you're selling off at this time. But, yeah, great day. Great to have you on, Richard. Check out some of his blogs at therealsportstalk.wordpress.com. I own that site, but Richard, man, he was working around the clock on some of these blogs. I think he wrote about 20 blogs in the last few days. Me and him made a ton of videos at youtube.com/MrKelstar talking about all these for the Real Sports Talk, and they're getting quite a few views as well. So certainly that was appreciated, and continue to follow Richard on Twitter at rjanvrin3_TRST. Follow me on Twitter at CashKelly_TRST, KASHKelly_TRST. And AC, it was great to have you on again, man.
Hey, great to be here, man. Love talking baseball with you guys.
No question. It was a great show tonight on the Blitz Hardcore podcast. Thank you guys for all tuning in. Remember to check out therealsportstalk.wordpress.com. Like The Real Sports Talk on Facebook, facebook.com/therealsportstalk. Follow me and Richard on Twitter. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.
Just a little ways around the corner from fear. Be there.